Bob, you know, there's been many great performers that have played in Chicago, but none, in my opinion, have had the impact or left the impression of the great Walter Payton.
Ladies and gentlemen, playing in his 95th and final regular season game at Soldier Field, number 34 from Jackson State, Walter Payton. We are joined today by Walter's family and friends. We welcome his wife, Connie, and their children, Jarrett and Brittany, his mother, Mrs. Eileen Payton, his sister, Pam, his brother, Eddie, and his wife, Mr. Charles Boston of Columbia, Mississippi, his high school coach, Mr. Bob Hill of Jackson, Mississippi, his college coach, from Walter's original Bear backfield, number 35, Roland Harper, and also here is Walter's longtime friend and advisor, Bud Holmes of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, to present a portrait of Walter.
What a sweet moment for sweetness. Dick Enberg and Merlin Olsen are at Soldier Field. They'll call the Seahawks-Bears game. We'll see you all at halftime with the highlights and the playoff possibilities. Congratulations, Walter. Thanks for being with us, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, playing in his 95th and final regular season game at Soldier Field, number 34 from Jackson State, Walter Payton. We are joined today by Walter's family and friends. We welcome his wife.
The National Broadcasting Company presents the National Football League. Today, from Soldier Field, it's the Seattle Seahawks versus the Chicago Bears. Brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By the U.S. Armed Forces, it's a great place to start. And by Nikon, we take the world's greatest pictures.
Of our affection for you, I will be presenting your jersey to your wife Connie and to your mother. Thank you, Walter, for everything.
The supreme honor for a great athlete, his number retired by the Chicago Bears today, the greatest runner in the history of the game, many will say, Walter Payton, number 34, the Chicago Bears, a day of emotion at Soldier Field, Chicago. The official temperature, the weatherman announced 34 degrees along Lake Michigan, a crowd of 66,000 as the Chicago Bears and Walter Payton host the Seattle Seahawks, who are in the midst of a dogfight for a playoff spot in the American Football Conference. Hello, everyone. Dick Enberg with Merlin Olsen. A day of emotion. You felt it yourself, Merlin.
Dick, I think the thing I miss most about playing this game is the incredible highs and lows of the game. And these two teams have run the gamut the past few weeks. an embarrassing loss for Chicago on Monday night against San Francisco. But a week earlier, one of their most exciting wins of the year in the final seconds against Minnesota. For Seattle, they've just come off a big victory over Denver, and yet just 3 weeks ago, embarrassed by the Raiders on Monday Night Football and played badly at Pittsburgh. So both of these teams have gone through the gamut of emotion in the past couple of weeks.
Your number was retired. You were honored in your final game. You know the feelings coursing through Walter Payton now, the emotions. What impact will he have on the game today?
You sensed how deeply he felt what was happening, and I look back at my 15 career. The one moment that jumps at me first is my last day at home in the Coliseum, feeling that crowd and feeling what it meant to them. You sense that the crowd is into this game, and you also feel the great love from Walter's teammates. But Walter has been ready to play every game of his career. I don't know if he's going to be able to get anything extra emotionally or not.
Well, let's talk about the emotions of the visitors from Seattle, because they want to get in the playoffs. Many picked them to be the Super Bowl team this year, and they are in a very difficult battle to win that spot. Denver squeaking by yesterday at home against Kansas City apparently is the team to watch, although they haven't clinched it as yet. And it's Seattle, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, San Diego, all tied at 8 and 5 and 4. Other teams still alive at 7 and 6. For Seattle, the message isn't emotional. It's mathematical. They have to win today, have to win next week.
Just win the football game. They came here. They're very serious. Got off to a horrible start. The water was out in the hotel this morning. No showers at all. So they might be a little angry coming into the game.
And across the way, their head coach, Chuck Knox, who, along with everyone else here in Chicago, paying tribute to the great Walter Payton. Knox and his Seahawks, fresh from that win last weekend against the Denver Broncos, a very important victory, and they hope to build emotionally upon that. And Mike Ditka of the Chicago Bears, he's been an angry head coach all this week, as you can well imagine, after his worst ever loss as a head coach in San Francisco.
Ditka locked out the press later in the week. You see Jim McMahon walking through your camera there. McMahon not in uniform today, will not play, and of course that's a blow to Chicago's hopes. Mike Tomczak, their starting quarterback, 4 interceptions in the first half last week.
This kickoff is sponsored by Budweiser, the king of beers. A rainy, cold day yesterday, cloudy, windy this morning, and the sun broke through about a half hour ago. A rather surprisingly pleasant football afternoon as the Seahawks' Norm Johnson will kick it off.
A big spotlight on Walter Payton's last day. Here, at least here in Chicago, unless they get into the playoffs.
Johnson hits it low, a floater. Thomas Sanders at the 2. Hit at the 20 and down at the 21-yard line. 19 yards on the return, and here come the Chicago Bears. And, of course, with McMahon on the sidelines, Mike Tomczak, number 18 out of Ohio State, the quarterback, had a rough game Monday night. Walter Payton and Neil Anderson, his heir apparent. Willie Gault has had an outstanding year. Ron Morse, the rookie wide receiver, the tight end, is Emery Moorhead. The offensive line is banged up. Paul Blair replaces their best lineman, Jim Covert. Mark Bortz, Jay Hilgenberg can barely raise his arms. Tom Thayer and Keith Van Horn. Anderson split way out to the left. Payton the solo behind Tomczak. And it figures he gets the call. Walter Payton on the very first play and picks up a couple. Payton averaging, well, 3.4. Easy to remember that with that number 34. That's a full yard under his career average of 4.4. Defensively, the Seahawks have Jacob Green, Joe Nash, and Jeff Bryant, the front 3. Bruce Schultz, Fred Young, a Pro Bowl season for him again. Brian Bosworth and Tony Woods for the injured Gaines. Taylor and Hunter soft at the corner, some think, and Easley and Robinson are the safety. Payton has a first down, out of bounds at the 34.
In some ways, Dick, this has been a disappointing season for Walter Payton. I think the strike really hurt him. Came in ready to play. That 4-week layoff hurt this man. But you see here some of the classic moves, the classic quickness, the ability to change direction. And one of the things that always amazes me about Payton, he attacks the guy who comes to tackle him. And there's no forgiveness on that side.
Starting in his 179 consecutive game as a running back who took it and dished it out as a blocker and as a runner to be so durable.
Davis. Anderson gets the ball, and he has around 10 yards. And close to another Bear first down. Jeff Bryant tripped him up.
Well, even the great ones occasionally make a mistake. Payton in motion, short motion, who's going to be a blocker on this play, turned too quickly to the line of scrimmage.
Stop and set himself, but it didn't work.
You'll see him going in motion. The Bears like to move the backs, get them in position to block, but he turns too quickly toward the line of scrimmage just before the snap, and then tried to set up for the full second. Had he been able to do that, he would have avoided the penalty. Always thinking.
So it's first and 15 for the Bears at their 28-yard line. Again, Anderson sent way out to the far sidelines. They bring McKinnon in motion. To the 35-yard line, where it'll be second down and 8.
There's no secret to what the Bears want to do today. They want to run the football and establish the running game. Take as much pressure as possible off Mike Tomczak. Their thinking there is if they can get that running game going, and they're working against a team that has been vulnerable to the running game. Seattle has had trouble stopping the run, in particular against the Raiders. Pittsburgh, they did play better last week against a weak running attack from the Broncos, but that's where you're going to see the emphasis early here.
Payton, 3 plays, 3 carries, goes in motion this time. Not going to be guilty of a foul as he looks back at Tomczak. Could have been a broken play, and Kenny Easley comes up to nail Tomczak.
Payton looked like he was coming back to try and take a reverse of some kind. But I think it was indeed a broken play, and a loss on the play will bring up a 3rd and long. You'll see Payton looking back over his inside shoulder. No way to turn the wrong way here. But now watch Payton. I think maybe he's the guy that, well, let's see. Here he goes. Oh, he's just following Kenny Easley. He was trying to get a block.
Easley, from his safety position, shooting up to make the tackle. 3rd and 11. Tomczak from the shotgun. His first pass, good protection. It's out of bounds. That was not close to anyone. Tomczak, who had a troubled week after a dismal first half in San Francisco, his first pass awry. And the punting team comes on, and that means a new face for the Chicago Bears. Number 17, Tommy Barnhart from North Carolina. He was on the New Orleans Saints replacement team, not Atlanta. And Bobby Joe Edmonds. His daddy played for the Indiana Pacers a couple of years. A fine kick returner. We have 2 outstanding punt return men, McKinnon and Edmonds, in this game. Barnhart, low liner. Edmonds at the 28. Skips to the 40 and down at the 43. Good field position for the Seattle Seahawks. No flags on the play. Timeout. 3 minutes gone on Walter Payton Day in Chicago. Well, we have the NFL's all-time rushing leader in Walter Payton. So many NFL records running the football, and we have the man who apparently will finish his career maybe after the end of next season. Number 80, Steve Largent, who well could have all of those same numbers as the best pass receiver ever in terms of yards, catches, and even touchdowns.
I think the thing that they both have as a constant is consistency. Amazing consistency.
And their work ethics, incredible. They really devote full time to their job, and it is reflected in their performance. Largent in motion, Dave Craig with Warner and Williams behind him, and Craig comes out throwing. It's Williams in the flat, and John L. Williams skids into Bear territory at the 49 with a gain of 8. Vesty Jackson on the coverage, number 24. Here are the Seahawks offensively. Craig with Warner and Williams. Butler has taken over for Darrell Turner at one of the wide receiver positions. Largent, the tight end, is Mike Tice. Big offensive line of Mattis, Bailey, Fiesel for the injured Blair Bush. Bush out with a broken hand, Millard and Wilson.
Unlike Chicago, Seattle is starting with the thought of throwing the football. This is the number 1 run defense in all of football they're facing today.
Second and about a yard and a half. And Craig is able to fall on it. A yard loss. So that to be expected. A new center, just that what seems to be a simple exchange, but problems between Fiesel and Craig.
And the Bears looking for a chance at that turnover. Have Hampton, McMichael, Perry, and Dent up front. Mike Singletary in the middle with Wilson and Marshall. Marshall has had another outstanding year. Richardson and Jackson, Todd Bell, and Dave Dorson. Dorson, the leading tackler for the Bears. From the 50, 3rd and 3. The throw is to Largent. And Largent has a first down as he has a catch in his 151st consecutive game, adding to one of his NFL records.
Tremendous foot and body control. I think the thing that amazes you about Largent is his ability to get his balance under all kinds of conditions. Watch him. He's approaching the sideline on slick turf. Look at the way he gathers his feet and knows exactly what kind of yardage he has to pick up for that first down. It is a beautiful play.
Indeed it was. Needed 3, got 4. 11:24 remaining first quarter, no score. Seattle invading their territory, and Kurt Warner's first carry out of bounds at the 41-yard line. The weather today, Merlin, based on what we saw Friday night and all day yesterday, and even this morning with a howling wind, surprisingly good football day.
A disappointment to Mike Ditka. Mike was hoping for rain and sleet and wind because he didn't want Seattle to be able to throw the football. And, of course, he would prefer to keep it on the ground offensively himself. But the weather is very, very nice, although it could change momentarily here in Chicago.
We saw the flags at half-mast, still in honor of deceased Mayor Harold Washington. Warner, not much there. And the Bears reluctant to give any yardage defensively. They're the best defense against the run in the NFL, and second overall to the Raiders.
They are tough up front. They put the pressure on you. This Bear defense, a forcing defense, a pressing defense. They're always applying the pressure right up front on the middle of that offensive line and directly on the quarterback.
And their defensive captain, Singletary, right in the thick of things. 3rd down and 5. Craig, incomplete. Trying to drill the ball through to Paul Scansey. And good coverage. Reggie Phillips.
A good part of this Bear defensive philosophy is what we call clamp coverage. They just come up and clamp on those receivers, and they believe they're going to get a rush on that quarterback, and he's not going to be able to beat him downfield.
Rodriguez the punt. There's Dennis McKinnon. He's returned 2 for touchdowns this year, 194 and 165 yards. Into the wind. McKinnon lets it bounce, and it'll kick freely into the end zone. 20-yard line on the touchback for the Bears. We played 4 minutes and 37 seconds first quarter. Boy, that's a pleasant sight, those blue skies over Chicago.
Oh, well, I tell you, yesterday, walking in that rain with that wet rain falling and the wind blowing, looking forward to that kind of day today, that's absolute misery for an athlete. That's worse than snow. This is an incredibly nice day.
10:23 remaining, first quarter, no score. Bears start from the 20. Second possession, and it's Payton again, his 4th carry. He's got 5. He's got 8. 26 yards to Walter Payton, number 34, retired. It was a surprise prior to the start of this game. Ed McCaskey, the president, announcing that no one will wear number 34 in a Bear uniform after Payton.
57, Tom Thayer, the guard, out in front of Payton with an excellent block to spring Payton. Look at that typical kind of gliding stride characteristic of Payton. In the middle, Jay Hilgenberg, the center. 62, Mark Bortz, working on the nose tackle, Joe Nash, to lock things up inside.
Second and short, Tom Zach pitches to Payton, and Walter has just enough for the first time.
I think he's going to be a little short, Dick, depending on the mark.
Across the 30.
They're going to give it to him.
Brian Bosworth and Jacob Green collaborated on the stop.
What was it that Tom Catlin, the defensive coach of the Seahawks, said yesterday about Payton? There are no pardon me's.
No pardon me's ever. And he paid a particular compliment to Payton. He said, there's Catlin right there in the center of your screen, the defensive coordinator of the Seahawks. He said, I don't think we'll ever see another player come with that kind of energy, not only as a runner, but a blocker. No pardon me's at all.
First down, Payton. Keeping him busy on his day. Cut down. There's the difference between Walter Payton of 1987 and the Payton of even 5 years ago. Just that half step. Payton 5 years ago had been upfield for 15 more. Bosworth got to him for the tackle.
There's the Boz on the far sideline. I think two of the most colorful of NFL players in terms of character, Bosworth and McMahon on the field. McMahon not in uniform today, but here as well. Colorful. Is that the right word?
Well, that's euphemistic, perhaps. Payton, another blown play. I think Payton was supposed to keep it, but Tomczak gets the first down. Out to the 43-yard line. Bruce Schultz, the closest Seahawk. Payton looked surprised that he didn't get the ball.
Well, I got to tell you that last Monday night against San Francisco, that play would have been about a 10-yard loss. Everything that could go wrong for the Bears did go wrong. Here, a blown play becomes a first down as Tomczak ends up running a naked first unintentionally.
Gain of 8 yards. Bears approaching midfield on their second possession. 8:48 remaining in the opening quarter. The rookie from SMU. First down at the 36 of Seattle.
Well, this is exactly the way Ed Hughes, the offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, I think had anticipated this early quarter, running the football, getting some success, and then coming back to throw the football when you've taken some pressure off your quarterback. That's a rookie who started all year for the Bears, and they are excited about his future. Ron Morris.
Good throw by Tomczak, but he was given considerable protection. Plenty of time to search out Morris. First time the Bears have been in Seattle territory, and this is Neil Anderson. Shut off at the pass by Tony Woods, number 57. A rookie, number 1 pick out of Pittsburgh. First look at the 10-minute ticker on NBC. Other early games on this, the last week of the regular season. Pittsburgh in a crucial game at Houston. Early lead. Minnesota, Detroit scoreless. Philadelphia 7-0 over the Jets. Rumbles in the Jet camp about leadership. New England 7-0 over Buffalo. Big game for the Bills, are in the driver's seat at the moment in the East. 7-0 Cincinnati with the early lead against New Orleans. Here, no score. Second and long for Tomczak. Fake to Payton. Tomczak over the middle. Is it good? To McKinnon. Did he trap it? Yes.
Some pretty nifty running by Tomczak, who is not really known as a scrambler. Avoided the rush by Joe Nash. Let's see how that ball lands here. Oop, no question about it. Good call by the officials. They kind of just lassoed that one.
He scraped it in. Good try, but the ball on the ground clearly. 3rd and 12 then for Tomczak. This is where the Seahawks like to bring in their 5-6 defensive backs. Out of the gun. And they run it to Neil Anderson. That didn't fool Seattle at all. Stopped at the 40-yard line. Bosworth and Jacob Green there.
They are in that defense. Seattle calls that the penny when they got Bosworth right in behind. That's one less back than the nickel backs. You'll see it at the top of your screen. Jacob Green coming upfield to force very quickly. He takes down the interference. And right there forces the play back inside. And who's waiting? Number 55, Brian Bosworth. And of course, that's his job out of that situation, is to flow with whatever comes.
Boy, Green took care of 3 men to open it up for Bosworth. Barnhart, second kick, with Edmonds back at his 10. Ooh. A line drive. Going to be a good kick. Out of bounds at the 11. And with it, a timeout. 6 minutes and 18 seconds left. Still no score in Chicago. First quarter. Our crack NBC Sports research team has found out that Mike Ditka's gone back to Red Man gum. That was what got him through the Super Bowl year. He's changed gum. After the incident in San Francisco. Goodness, was that ludicrous. The Seahawks. Craig to the 14. Hard-earned 3 yards. Dent from behind with a tackle.
Dick, the joke here in Chicago was that they were surprised here that gum wasn't intercepted the way things were going out there in San Francisco. Let's, of course, a page that Ditka has not bothered to talk about.
Well, he didn't talk to the press after the Monday night game. It wasn't just the gum incident. It was a bad loss, and he just figured, hey, he talks to him every day. He just figured he needed to rest.
What are you going to say after you've been knocked off 41-0?
Second and 7 for the Seahawks. Wide open Largent. Almost intercepted by Jackson on the carom. Pass was a little too tall, and Largent almost deflected it right into the arms of Jackson.
Almost a critical mistake by Largent as he taps this ball into the air. You can't get your hands on it. You don't want to hang it up there for one of the defenders. You'll see Largent getting his hands in there the last second to keep Jackson from locking up an interception. The crowd really into this game. I think that ceremony for Payton has them all pumped up still, Dick.
Over the middle, incomplete. Scansey couldn't hang on.
Scansey had it, but he couldn't keep it down as Richard Dent, coming from the right-hand side, just nails the quarterback. Mike Singletary also an important part of that play, but the pressure from Dent forces the bad throw. Look at Singletary going back into the middle of that defense. You get a little flavor of his hit right there at the end to break that ball loose from Scansey's hand. Scansey bobbling it, couldn't hang on to it when he got hit by Singletary.
He'll have to kick from around his 1-yard line. Rodriguez, the dangerous McKinnon back at his 46. Nice kick. All the way to the 36. Oh, and down at the 39. What a hit by Tony Burse, the rookie from Middle Tennessee State. 51 yards on the punt, 4-yard return. Knox 7-0 against the NFC Central teams, while with Seattle, on the other hand, the Bears are 10-0 under Ditka against the AFC, so something has to give today. From the 40, Chicago, no score, 5:15 left first quarter. For the first time throwing on first down underneath to Anderson. Good for nearly 8 yards. No score in Chicago. Let's see what's happening elsewhere in the NFL. NFL Live in New York.
Dick, at Buffalo, the Patriots lead the Bills 7-0 on this Steve Grogan to Cedric Jones touchdown pass of 7 yards. Although New England is a game under 500, they'll be the champs in the AFC East if they beat Buffalo today, Miami next week, and Indy loses one somewhere along the line.
All right, Bob, and of course, all the complications in the tie-breaking system. I know you fellas will have that all ironed out for us as the day progresses. A big doubleheader on NBC. Payton powering his way to a first down at the 46-yard line. The other scores in every one of the games, the AFC side of import today. Pittsburgh still leading 3-0 at Houston. Philadelphia opens a 10-point lead against the Jets. That's the New England score. We just heard on in Cincinnati, 14-3. That's the biggest surprise early. First down, Chicago at the Seattle 46-yard line. McKinnon to the right. Galt to the left. Tomzak over the middle, incomplete. thrown behind Dennis McKinnon. Well, Payton is the complete player, as you'll see here, Merlin.
He certainly is. Called on to block, to protect the quarterback here. Goes right at the legs of big Joe Nash, who outweighs him about 35 pounds. Doesn't worry about his body. Gave Tomczak time to get that ball off. But Tomczak has real problems when he locks in on that receiver.
Walter Payton, the ultimate compliment.
Or he joins a list of some great ones there.
Oof, that's worth looking at again maybe later. On 2nd and 10, Tomczak a screen to Payton. 40, first down at the 36. Eugene Robinson finally got him out of bounds.
Mike Ditka said yesterday when we talked to him, this is going to be Walter's day. And so far, Walter is responding beautifully. Watch the moves he makes. Going to get a defender jumping over the top. And Walter's just going to do a little toreador there. That's pretty.
Yeah, you lose the fact that he's been a great receiver as well. He has 488 career catches. Sweetness, indeed. One of those selected for the Wheaties cover. Whoops. Payton seemed to be off balance as he took that hand off. It's to the 35-yard line. No gain. Jeff Bryant.
Dick, one of the things you have to know about Mike Ditka is that he really starts from the line of scrimmage. He builds a physical football team. If you're going to play in cold weather, you have to do that. You've got to run the football, and you've got to play defense, because a lot of days you simply can't throw it. That's where Ditka started his football. That's actually where Knox begins his game as well. Very similar in that way between the two coaches.
And their football lives trace way back to Ditka's high school days. Payton for 2.
Jeff Bryant at the bottom of that stack again. Bryant, who's returned to health after suffering ankle problems all through 1986, having a fine year. Get a chance to look inside. They've moved Nash outside and Bryant in on the center. And Bryant actually coming from the nose tackle position on that play. I think they want Bryant on Hilgenberg because of Hilgenberg's physical problems. Bryant is the bull of this defensive line for Seattle.
Yeah, they say he'd fight a circular saw and get the first bite.
Jacob Green all the way on the right this time.
3rd and 8. McKinnon, a first down at the 25, and Tomczak able to throw a strike just as he was drilled by Fred Young.
Almost whiplash for Tomczak. You saw him get up and shake his neck. You'll see why here. Number 50, the bottom of your screen, right around the block there, and levels Tomczak just as that ball is thrown.
Young's had a great year, 90 tackles. He leads the team, 9 sacks, leads the team, 5 forced fumbles. And he was very close to another big play there.
One of the finest natural football players, instinctive football players I've ever seen, Freddie Young.
6'1", 233 pounds, out of Dallas high school system, went to New Mexico.
Make no mistake about it. Right now, he is the star of the Seattle defense.
Not Bosworth.
Not Bosworth.
Score, minute and a half remaining, first quarter. Bears driving deep, and it's Payton. Hit from all sides.
Well, the success of the running game for Chicago has done one very positive thing for them here early. They have had the better field position since that first drive. And right now they're down knocking on scoring territory. Let's see what Tomczak can do with it. Of course, last week, even when they got down into San Francisco territory, they would self-destruct. Let's see what the Bears and Tomczak can do here.
2nd and 8 at the 23.
This is an area of the field that Tom Catlin likes to blitz from defensively.
Yep, here they come. Bosworth, and he can't bring down Payton. Payton gets to the 20, and Bosworth is so unhappy with himself. He said he's been unhappy all week, maybe all year. He said it hadn't been fun in Seattle, and that play wasn't either. He was left with nothing but air in his arms.
Well, there are a lot of folks who would like to take his job. $11 million in 10 years, I think so. There's the reason he's unhappy. Bosworth simply missed the tackle. You get that close to even a good running back, that kind of shot, you've got to take him down, and Bosworth missed the opportunity.
Third down and a long 4. May not get this play off before the end of the quarter. 3 seconds to you. Final play of the first quarter. Tom Zach and treble gets away from Green and delivers the pass to the tight end Moorhead, and a flag is down.
And looks like we may have an ineligible man downfield, possibly.
As number 78, a tackle was, that's right, that's the call. Van Horn was 5 yards downfield on the play. That will nullify the first down pass.
57. Illegally downfield. 10 yards. Still third down.
Thayer and Van Horn almost in a screen to the right side, although the pass went to the left. The end of the first period at Soldier Field in Chicago. The Bears and the Seahawks are scoreless, and the Bears apparently will be going for a field goal to open the second. Well, sweetness day for Walter Payton, and the weather is all of that.
It certainly is. Yesterday, with all that snow on the ground, I was reminded that a couple of weeks ago you were off skiing, and I had someone ask me where you were. I said, I don't know whether he's at Aspen or Vail, but I can tell you how to find him. I said, go to look on the bunny hill for a guy in a three-piece suit.
Give me a break.
No, my spies tell me you've actually become a pretty good skier.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I stay up to 30 seconds at a time.
Now, is there anyone aside to pick you up when you go down?
I don't want to talk about skiing. I want to talk about the fact that here's Payton, a retired number. You had your number retired by the Rams, not on your final home regular season game, but later. If you had your dread, that kind of stretches out the drama.
A very special time in a sense that you know that number is never going to be worn by anyone else. Speaking of numbers, there's some impressive numbers.
As the Bears have dominated ball control, as you saw, over 12 minutes of the first 15, and they have it 3rd and 14 after the penalty at the Seattle 30 as we open the second quarter. With protection again underneath to Anderson. Hit from behind and dropped shy of the first down at the 21. And so the field goal unit comes on with Kevin Butler, who has not missed inside the 40 all year. 14 out of 14.
Also had a 14 field goal streak going until last week in San Francisco, but this is a chip shot. Of course, that's what we said about Nick Lowery's field goal that would have given his team a tie in the final seconds against Denver yesterday. A field goal, by the way, that all of these Seahawks were watching with great anguish.
39 yards away is Butler.
Ooh, bad snap.
The kick is good.
Tomzak did a great job of getting that one down, but we've got a flag down.
Side judge threw the flag.
4th down. They would not give them a first if it's offside. And they're calling it against the Chicago Bears. Of course, they will take that. They're calling it tripping penalty. Probably against one of the outside.
Unsportsmanlike conduct.
Ooh.
Kicking. Number
15 yards.
15 yards. 4th down.
Ooh, that's a 3-point foul.
That is a real blow to you. That may take you all the way out of field goal range. Al Harris, he's on the outside, and you're not allowed to trip or kick. And they are flagging him for that.
So the 39-yard field goal by Butler is through, but Harris guilty of this foul. See if we can see number 90.
Looking on this side, man gets by him. Watch the legs go out. Right there, you see the legs shooting out. 51, Sam Merriman, the man he actually tripped to the ground there.
Well, Butler will try a 53-yard attempt. His longest ever 52, and he matched that this year. That was the kick that beat Green Bay, remember? Follow Tomzak's hold.
Pretty short.
So the penalty by Harris negates the 3 points on Butler's 39-yard field goal, and Seattle takes over with 14 minutes left in the first half.
Lower side of your screen here, we'll watch again as number 90, Al Harris, will trip Sam Merriman, 51. Merriman going around him, and the legs go out. The penalty costs him 3.
timeout in Chicago, no score. Yeah, just as Mississippi and Jackson State claims Walter Payton, so it is Oklahoma City and Tulsa for Steve Largent is going after his own set of records and ever so close to 3 big ones. Kurt Warner on first down, able to get close to the 39-yard line, and here are those marks that Largent has taken aim at first. The receptions, he's now only 6 behind Charlie Joyner's record of 750. Only 231 yards after Joyner's receiving yards. And you can see only 85 from the 12,000 mark to become the second to do that. And the great Don Hudson had 99 touchdown receptions, and Largent only 5 behind that Hall of Famer. Second and 8 for Craig. Swings it to Williams. Big John L. Oh, look at him powering. It's a first down out to the 47-yard line. Self-made first down yardage by John L. Williams. Jackson made the tackle.
Well, I'll tell you what an addition he was to this Seattle Seahawks team. Gives you great power as a blocker and a runner, and surprisingly, one of the best sets of hands on this team. And look at this niftiness here. Out of the tackle right there by Wilbur Marshall, lowers his shoulder on Vestee Jackson, number 24, got the first down.
And on first down, Warner tripped up.
Nice play, Dan Hampton, inside out. Hampton coming off his 8th, or make that his 7th knee operation. We don't want to give him one more than his needs. His knees have kind of blown out on him, but what a great player he is. The kind of guy that can apply tremendous pressure on a quarterback, still plays the run, really a complete player, and an emotional player. You just saw that, pumping.
Second and 9. Incomplete to Scansey.
Dave Craig is not sharp today. You just kind of have the feeling that he's a half beat off as we look in on a pair of real hands there. Well, now, whose hands would those be? You can tell that they're the hands of a man who uses them in the pass rush. That's Jacob Green. I'll tell you, see the way they're all taped up. The reason he's got them taped that way is that they often get tangled in the jersey of that offensive lineman, and without that extra tape, frequently are dislocated or broken.
You could catch Nolan Ryan with all that padding.
Almost. Shotgun again.
This is where the Bears like to come at you, although they only 4 men on 3rd and 9.
Lots of time.
Wide open is Ray Butler. He's to the 27-yard line of Chicago. Jackson with a tackle, and Craig, that was not his primary target, but he found the wide open Butler.
You talk about hands inside of those gloves, a cast on the left hand of Raymond Butler, who's playing with a broken finger, broke it last week, but he is playing extremely well. I think we've actually gone to the other side of the field here. There's the kind of pattern that opens the way for Butler on the other side. As you saw the way they're drawing those defenders outside on Largent, pulling him outside on the 2 receivers.
Butler had a big 6-catch game against Denver to take over the starting job from Darrell Turner. This has been the best penetration by Seattle to the 27. Take the Warner. Craig fumbles, and it's up for grabs, and alertly coming back to fall on it is one of the offensive linemen, number 65, Edwin Bailey. Saved the day for Seattle and for Craig.
Strange play. Looked like McMichael may have been the one to put the pressure on in there, but Craig actually drops this ball. I don't think anybody hits it. He fakes there, goes inside. McMichael gets a hold of him, but it looked like Craig was trying to get the ball up to throw it again, and it dropped out of his hand.
Meanwhile, a penalty on the play, holding against Chicago.
Of course, that is a big, big play. Instead of losing all that ground on the fumble, you're going to go back and pick up 5 and also pick up the first down.
Number 27, holding. That's 5 yards and a first down, but we're taking the ball all the way to the former line of scrimmage. First down.
Marked off from the line of scrimmage, 27. Richardson, and there you saw the hook on Largent.
No question.
Largent works so well against those defensive backs because he says he thinks like a defensive back. And what he does, he'll give them one look and then do something that's quite the opposite of what they expect.
Well, the penalties have really been injurious.
Very costly for the Bears today.
It cost them a first down deep down in Seattle territory, cost them a field goal, and now a first down Seattle. Draw wide open for Warner. And he's to the 18-yard line. A pickup of 9 before Singletary makes the tackle from behind.
You sense some of that same fluid changing of direction in Warner that we showed you earlier in Payton.
Pittsburgh with another field goal at Houston. The Jets have scored. New England, Buffalo. That's a big season for them and a big game, but so far it's the Patriots and Cincinnati by 2 touchdowns at home against New Orleans. A down with which to play, but they take it to Warner.
Now, they'll have to mark his forward progress. He did not make much at all as William, the refrigerator Perry.
Well, that was right into the meat section there.
Well, you don't want to try and run at the bulk of this line, and there's the bulk of it. They say 315 on the program. He's 330 plus, and I think that's just for weigh-in day. But he does play the run game very, very well. Almost impossible to block him on top, and a little extra emotion in that tackle as they're measuring. It will be a first down.
The biscuit they call William Perry, a biscuit shy of 350.
Well, and what I say about the weigh-in, I'm sure that he works hard to get his weight down for the weigh-in. Probably the day after the weigh-in, he's up around 345.
First down at the 17 of the Bears. No score. Under 10 minutes left, first half. Denver throwing on first down.
Audible call by Craig.
And Craig is going to throw on first down. Dumps it off to Williams. Breaks another tackle. So Williams makes 3 yards after shedding the tackle try of Singletary.
I'll tell you, don't get many players who can bump heads and shoulders with Mike Singletary and stay on their feet and go upfield. A tribute to the kind of strength and balance that John L. Williams has. Singletary really popped him, and he just kept right on moving upfield.
Williams, not only the fine blocker, as Merlin pointed out, but the leading receiver, and he's second behind Largent on the season statistics in catching the ball.
He really has come on the last 4 weeks.
Draw, Williams. Nothing there. And Dave Dorison came up from the safety spot to throw a mean hit on Williams. Dorison from Notre Dame, a 210-pounder. He leads the Bears in tackles this year from that safety spot.
Well, he actually plays in a linebacking position a good deal of the time. Look how close to the line he is, number 22. Really in the place of a linebacker. And because he's the 7th, 8th man up there, the extra man there, you don't have anyone to block him. That's the reason he's leading in tackles.
3rd and 5. Craig in the shotgun. Going deep. Touchdown to Darrell Turner. A flag is down, and we'll see whether Turner pushed off or whether Maurice Douglas was guilty of the foul.
It looked to me like Turner actually may have used his arms to get a little extra room. We'll have to wait and see. But Turner did a good job of not showing that that ball was coming. Look at the end of the play, and let's see how he actually couldn't see anything there. Did a good job of getting up to pull that ball down without tipping the receiver.
Interference
against Douglas.
Touchdown.
So Darrell Turner, who has an incredible percentage of touchdown catches, is going into this game 100 career catches, 35 for touchdowns. That's his first catch today, and he gets a score with it.
He really has been quiet of late, though, Dick. Has not done a great deal over the past 4 or 5 weeks. They're happy to see him back in production here today.
Well, Seattle has scored first as Johnson whittles that one through there. That ball was doing tricks going into the wind the way Johnson kicked it. And here's Turner.
Number 81, working one-on-one right there. Little break to the outside. Now watch the way he'll keep those hands down. And there was the push I talked about.
Today's game is brought to you by Mazda, bringing performance and value together. That's the Mazda way. By the power tool people at Black & Decker. And by Alka-Seltzer. For stomach upset with a headache, send the bubbles of Alka-Seltzer to the rescue.
Soldier Field, the scene. Darrell Turner capping that 64-yard drive with his first catch of the day. And 6 points with it from Dave Craig as Norm Johnson kicks it off.
Into the wind. He drives it. Good kick.
Sanders. Thomas Sanders from Texas A&M. Oh, down at the 16-yard line. Let's go back to the touchdown. Did Turner get a little extra help with a push on that catch?
Watch Turner now, number 81. Just quickly gets outside. Gets away on the play. Maurice Douglas right at the end of this play. Watch Turner turn back, and it's right here. You see the little shove right there. A little push off, both men pushing at the same time. And Douglas was ticketed with the foul. You watch that in slow motion. It doesn't look quite as bad for Darrell Turner as it did the first time.
Walter Payton, Neil Anderson behind Mike Tomczak. In case you just joined us, Jim McMahon not in uniform. Oh, no one around Bosa, the tight end, and he's all the way to the 48-yard line. And Eugene Robinson finally made the tackle. A broken coverage by the Seahawks. No one picked up the tight end, Bozo.
Nobody home. Chance to look at it from the end zone here. We're looking upfield, and Tomczak finds the open man. There is nobody around. Bozo has to say, who was supposed to be over here? Eugene Robinson getting there. And Patrick Hunter, 23, coming back upfield, and Bozo to the sideline. Looks like they're checking his legs.
From the 48, 7-0 Seattle. 7 minutes, 14 seconds left in the first half. Tomczak to Moorhead. Tight end to tight end. First down at the 32. The Bears playing it tight. Let's go to NFL Live.
All right, Dick, the Oilers are a game behind the Steelers and Browns, but they lead Pittsburgh now 7-6 in the second quarter at the Astrodome after this 52-yarder from Warren Moon to Drew Hill. If the Oilers win their last two, and if Pittsburgh beats Cleveland next Saturday, the Oilers are champions of the AFC Central.
All right, Bob, and here in Chicago, the Bears fans looking for a possible tying touchdown at the 32.
Passes in a row.
And two.
Well, almost.
That's right.
Pass.
3 called,
yeah.
2 complete to the tight end. Brian Bosworth with the sack.
That's the kind of play that Tomczak has trouble with. He's pretty darn good on the short passes where he can just pop back into a 3-step or a 5-step and launch that football. But when he gets back into a pattern where he locks on a receiver, and that's the situation here. He had locked on a receiver, and of course the defender's then able to react to that. And Tomczak, with nowhere else to go, is sacked by Bosworth for the loss.
Bosworth, who won the Dick Butkus Award as the top linebacker in the country twice while at Oklahoma. And of course, Butkus in the radio booth now for the Chicago Bears. Second and long. Payton gets a good block. 35. Down at the 30. That'll be short of the first down by 7 yards. Reminder that we'll be selecting the Budweiser Most Valuable Player in today's game. That, of course, at the conclusion. As you just heard, the Oilers have taken the lead on the Warren Moon bomb. Still no score in Detroit. Tied in Jersey as the Jets have come back from a 10-0 deficit. New England still up 7-0 in Cincinnati by 14 against playoff-bound New Orleans.
Speaking of scores, these Bears looking for their first score in 6 quarters. Well, they're a little hungry at the moment.
Right, the 41-0 hangover from San Francisco. Down the middle. And knocked down nicely by Dave David Hollis from University of Nevada, Las Vegas. That appeared to be open, and Hollis with a quick move able to bat it away.
Dennis Gentry looking for a flag, but the timing was excellent by the defensive back. And another opportunity missed. In a game like this, you're really looking at opportunities and the advantage you get by capitalizing. Seattle, with one chance to score, got the 7. This is the second opportunity for the Bears. They blew the first one with a penalty.
A 48-yard attempt by Butler. Blocked. And it's going to go out of bounds at the Seattle 13-yard line. One of the big linemen got a hand up on Butler's field goal attempt. So Butler made good from 39, nullified by a penalty, missed from 53, and his 48-yard attempt. It might have been Young, Freddie Young.
Taking it, congratulations. It looks like a low kick. It looked like a driving kick. Young on the outside. Yes, there's Freddie. Big hand up in front of it, but that ball, at that distance, a kicker has to drive the ball a little bit. Young timing it perfectly, got that big right hand up in front of the ball, batted it away.
Well, the Seahawks take over at the line of scrimmage, the 30-yard line. Craig again throwing on first down. Wide open underneath is Butler. Gets a block from Williams and dashes for safety at the 38.
You might wonder, Dick, why so many passes from Seattle and from Craig, and the answer is very simple. The Bears stack the deck defensively against the run. They really bring 8 people up inside, and they say, in effect, you are not going to be able to run the football against us. If you're going to succeed, you better throw the football. Of course, Seattle has said, okay, we'll throw the football. And, of course, you have to mix some runs in there, but basically that's the challenge the Bear defense gives you.
Well, Warner has been surprisingly quiet as a rusher, only 6 carries for him. 7. He's knocked down by Dorson, short of the first down by 2 or 3 yards.
Right down inside in the trenches, Greg Fiesel, who's getting his chance to start because of Bush's broken hand. 54 going down on the legs of William Perry, actually getting a little trip at the end of that play. But Dorson, 22, as he so often is, that extra man up there with no one to block him, and he is in on the tackle.
Grant Fiesel from Abilene Christian, replacing the injured Blair Bush at center. He has to call those audibles, right, Mullen?
Boy, that's a tough job against this defense, too.
Little swing to Williams.
First down.
Boy, what an effort by Williams as he plows for the first down. He was hit at the 38, makes it to the 42, and a 5-yard gain before Sean Gale can secure him.
Watch him take this little swing. Maurice Douglas, number 37, has a shot at him, but this is not a guy who goes down with any kind of tackle other than a pretty strong gang tackle, or at least a real hit. Douglas just kind of opened the door on him. He went right on by.
Now Seattle, after watching the Bears own the football almost the entire first quarter, dominating possession here in the second, leading 7-0 with 4 minutes left before halftime. Quick out, complete to Butler at the 45. Short yardage, only 3.
And that's the way you counter this pressure defense, is the quick passes, the timing patterns. Of course, on a day when the wind is blowing and it's raining and snowing, you don't throw those kind of patterns. And that's why Ditka was hoping for an ugly day today.
This was a total surprise to everyone in Chicago after the week of weather that they experienced. Heavy snows early in the week, cold, dank rain yesterday and Friday, and it blossoms of beauty on this Sunday. Temperature has to be close to 40. Craig buried at the 36-yard line as finally Otis Wilson shoulders through the blockers. Chuck Knox looked to be saying, get rid of the ball.
No question about it. Quarterback cannot afford to hang on to the football that long against this Bear team because they've always got somebody popping loose. Craig should have just unloaded it, either out of bounds or into the open area. But watch him. He's looking to his right, can't find anyone. Comes back to the center, can't find anyone. Right there, get rid of it. Uh-oh. Wilson playing with a very sore shoulder. You see him, it's that left shoulder he has a hard time getting up.
We saw 60 sacks for the Bears, leaders in the NFL. That's 12 shy of their NFL record. Down deep, incomplete. Ooh, that ball really dying in the wind as Turner was streaking deep and was in the open, but Craig, no way he was going to throw the ball that far.
Largent lost his feet. Largent was coming across, and that's the kind of pattern you want to throw against these Bears. The patterns when you break people loose laterally across the field, but Largent making the move went right to the ground, and the ball anticipating that he would be there. No way.
Craig is 9 for 14. McKinnon looking into the sun at the 25.
Ooh, almost a block there, and not a good kick. Bad bounce.
Oh, it hit a Bear. It's a live ball. The Bears, McKinnon recovers at the 28-yard line. Oh, that could have been disastrous, but McKinnon alertly saw the ball hit a foot and fell on it.
I'm surprised that they don't call kicking the football. Even though it was inadvertent, you're not allowed to kick that football. It looked to me like it came right off the foot of one of the Bears. In fact, I think it was Todd Bell, number 25. Let's see who it is.
No, it's Dusty Jackson.
24 Jackson, 24, but the ball off his foot, and of course, well, he's taking it all the way back to the spot.
Now the Bears survive a scare momentarily. 4 minutes. Well, that's a gangbuster game next Saturday. Cleveland and Pittsburgh as two of the 9 teams still alive with 2 weeks to go for a playoff spot.
Got to tell you, that AFC East is a scramble. It will be interesting to have a first team ever with a losing record going into the playoffs. It would be interesting, wouldn't it?
And, of course, the Central with Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Houston still all a part of that playoff picture. And, of course, we have 2 outstanding games waiting for you on the backside of this one as part of our NBC doubleheader. The Browns and the Raiders at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, and the Colts visit the Chargers in San Diego as San Diego tries to break out of a losing streak. All 4 of those teams very much alive except for the Raiders, and the Raiders will decide some fates this week and next.
They certainly will. It's the Bears heading out that direction next week. A chance that McMahon might be available to them in that game.
On 2nd and 10, Tomczak in trouble, able to break from the tackle of Green and slide to what could be a first down at the 37. Jacob Green had him right in his sights, and Tomczak slipped the sack.
They mentioned that Tomczak not a particularly good scrambler, but getting a good run that time, and will be very close to the first down.
17 unanswered points by the Jets to take the lead against the Eagles. And New England now with a 13-0 lead late in the first half.
3rd and 1. 38.
Where does the coat end and the hair begin?
Always a surprise from Jim, the ever-present sunglasses. Of course, they're legitimate on a day like today.
3rd and 1. 2:22 left in the half. Tomczak with a sneak.
He has it.
Across the 40-yard line.
Good job.
For the Bears, first down. Brought down by Wood.
The Bears we've talked about the physical nature of this football team, and one of the things that does to you, that you pay a price for all that pounding.
And it has been a season full of injuries for Chicago. 2-minute warning.
Turn a game around. No NFL player has had more than 4 career safeties, but one player had 2 in a single game. Was it Howie Long? Fred Dryer of the Rams? Or the Minnesota Vikings' Jim Marshall? Which would you choose? Fred Dryer once tallied 4 points against the Packers by scoring 2 safeties in the same game. If you said Fred Dryer, you made the right choice.
The second city, Chicago, along the banks of Lake Michigan. Boy, they say they're number 1, and probably are in terms of the adoration for the athlete.
They certainly do love their team. You don't want to cross the Bears and talk badly about them unless you want a knuckle sandwich in this town.
That's right. 2 minutes ago, Tomczak underneath, short yardage to the 46-yard line. The flag goes down as Easley makes the tackle.
And maybe calling Easley for hanging on him and keeping him on the ground. Somebody's saying face mask, are they? Let's see what happens here. They're going to mark it off.
Defense, number 45. Face mask, 5 yards.
Dick, we talked about the Bears being a physical defense, an attack defense. The Seattle defense is basically a finesse defense. There is Easley coming up. Apparently the hand went to the mask inside. But what they will do, particular against Galt here today and against a young quarterback, is that they will try and mix their coverages and confuse him. And Galt, during a lot of this day, even though they're zone defense, Galt has been covered man-to-man by one defender.
Now, something went wrong defensively, and the Seahawks quickly called timeout as they saw a formation didn't have the right players on the field. They'll return with Chicago in possession at the Seattle 49. Bears with plenty of chance to tie before the intermission, trailing Seattle 7-0. Chuck Knox, Tom Kaplan, they were all coaching brothers of your former line coach with the Rams, Ray Malavasi.
We'd certainly like to pass along condolences to the family and friends of Ray Malavasi, who passed away this week, former head coach of the Rams, defensive coordinator for Knox for 5 years in L.A. Took the Rams to the Super Bowl in 1979.
Well, he really wore that title, Coach well. Incomplete to Anderson, and there was plenty of traffic as Paul Moyer, 21, was around the ball for Seattle.
Moyer almost like a linebacker in that set, although he is basically a defensive back.
Next Saturday on NBC, Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Apparently, the winner to represent the AFC Central in the playoffs.
And they're saying in both those cities, well, it all comes down to this.
Longtime rivals, that's the way it should be. Tom Zach, plenty of time, lost it for Willie Galt, and Galt is out of bounds with a first down at the 34. First catch for Galt. Patrick Hunter on the coverage. 1:43 left in the half. So the Bears have not consumed much time on this drive.
They have not. They've gotten themselves into position. They have malfunctioned on 2 scoring opportunities. The penalty cost them a 3-point field goal, and a second field goal attempt was blocked. At the time of possession, the Bears owning a big chunk of this first half, but with no points to show for it. Blitz.
Anderson to the 25-yard line.
Good call offensively. They caught the Seahawks in a blitz anticipating pass, hit him with a little draw play right up the middle, and Anderson picks up the first down and some critical yardage. Although it looks like they've marked it just about a yard short of the first down there.
Tom Zach has called time for the Bears with 1:38 left at halftime. Frank DeFord. His topic today, sports toys for Christmas.
And we're not
that covers a lot.
Yeah, we're not far away from a Christmas holiday.
Knowing DeFord and his sense of humor, I wonder if that's a serious analysis of what toys you might buy for a sports-minded youngster, or whether or not he has something else in mind. We'll see. All the scores on what is a day next to last of the regular season, where so many teams and so many fans just hanging, wondering whether or not their club can at least edge into a proper position for a playoff spot. Boy, it's just been like trying to nail Jell-O on the wall. You just can't figure who it's going to be. Tom Zach through the hands, incomplete. Going for Galt.
Galt again, the intended receiver. 2 men there. Patrick Hunter, 23, and number 50, Fred Young, as they continue to hound him with several people. And these defensive backs have been told, do not let Willie Galt get behind you. If he's going to catch a pass, make it be in front of you. And that's really the defensive philosophy of Catlin's defense. Keep everything in front of you. If they're going to move the ball, make them take it down the field a chunk at a time. Make them earn that touchdown. Try and force them to self-destruct. The Bears have done that so far in this half.
3rd and a yard. And Tom Zach again will sneak it forward easily for the first down. This game, as you saw, New Orleans falling behind 24-3 for Chicago Bear fans who are hoping for the home field advantage in the playoffs. That is a game of some significance. Of course, it's San Francisco that needs to lose now for the Bears to have the ultimate home field.
Shotgun, Tom Zach back.
Wide open underneath is Dennis Gentry, and he's all the way to the 4-yard line.
Gentry, a dangerous receiver, can come in and play in the backfield, can slide out and play in the slot or at wide receiver. Crossing patterns, very effective against the zone defense. He'll come all the way from the far side of your screen underneath. Little screen there for him as he finds himself in an open area all alone and takes full advantage of it.
Fans are chanting, Walter, Walter. They want Payton, who had his number retired in ceremonies prior to the game, to get a shot at a touchdown. He holds the all-time NFL record for rushing touchdown, broke Jim Brown's mark earlier this year. He gets the call, spinning, but drawing just more waves of white.
You've got to believe that the emotion of this day will also pump up that Seattle defense. They were there in force, about a half a dozen of them. Bears, as we mentioned, looking for their first score of any kind in 6 quarters. And Ditka, who was so emotional in that loss last Monday night, has been very quiet on the sideline here today.
We talked to Coach Ditka yesterday and said when you get down to the lows of the game, and he did reveal to us, Merlin, that it has been a season not full of fun for him. Much like Bosworth, he said there's been some times this year where he's never been quite so low. I said, well, where do you go for help there? And he said, well, I've got some coaching buddies, Dan Reeves, the man I coached with Dallas as an assistant, Bill Parcells of the Giants, and I keep wondering, what would Vince Lombardi do? What would George Halas do in this situation?
The other also showed us another side of Mike Ditka. He said, I do a lot of praying, and I read the scriptures. And he said, sometimes I find the answers there. There are a few folks out there saying, oh, come on. But Ditka's an interesting man with a lot of facets and a lot of depth to him. What you see on the screen is very honest. He is an emotional man. He was an emotional player. He is that kind of coach, but there's nothing dishonest at all about it.
And there's no question about his love and his loyalty to this game. Second and goal.
That shows in the way Payton is being treated here today.
Fake to Payton. Tomczak looking to Moorhead for the touchdown.
So many times in his career, it was Payton as a decoy on that play, an impressive run fake that really opened up the possibility for the touchdown.
Butler to tie it. And so it is, with 52 seconds left in the first half. The Bears with an impressive drive. Veteran Emory Moorhead grew up in the Chicago area, went to high school up in Evanston, Illinois. Has his first touchdown for the Bears this year, capping a 71-yard drive in 12 plays. And the game is tied at 7 with 52 seconds left in the half. Bobby Joe Edmonds and David Hollis are deep for Seattle as Butler skids one into the wedge, picked up by one of the linebackers. And slugging forward is Bruce Schultz to the 33-yard line.
I mentioned the fake. Watch number 34 as he fakes over the ball here. Comes inside. That draws the attention of the linebackers, the defensive backs, and allows Emory Moorhead to slip unnoticed to the outside.
Well, there have been some Bear receivers wide open in this first half. Not just open, but no one within 5 yards of them or more. Well, will Seattle, with 46 seconds left and 2 of their timeouts remaining, try to go for something? Apparently, as Craig starts in the shotgun with 3 wide receivers right, and now Scansey in motion. Williams.
Ooh, big block by Ron Mattis.
And Williams to the 39.
Mattis just leveled Reggie Phillips. That's what you call a pancake block. Phillips coming in from a defensive backfield position, and Mattis drove him about 5 yards. Watch Mattis coming from the left side of your screen, number 70. He'll pick up number 48, Reggie Phillips, right there. Now watch him. He'll drive him, and then whoop. You didn't see the end of that.
That's unfair. Mattis is 306 pounds.
That's a pancake job.
And Phillips was 170. Timeout for Seattle with 39 seconds.
They say Mattis at 306 pounds and his body fat is 16%. I mean, he is just all, what, in the lexicon of the day, hunk.
He is a chunk. You're right. There's Ditka, and we mentioned his quietness. Man wears a coat, or he wears a tie on that sideline, and originally put that tie on to remind himself to maintain his cool. I wondered at times what it would be like if he didn't wear the tie, but he has definitely been cool here today.
Coming up on NBC in a busy holiday season, and we have some outstanding attractions for you. After our big day of January 1st bowl games, the Hall of Fame game features the Wolverines and the Tide at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and that'll be followed with a basketball game from Pauley Pavilion as the Tar Heels meet the Bruins. That's January 2nd. On 2nd and 4, Williams working on the sidelines, and will go out of bounds at the Bear 47.
Sean Gale coming up to tap shoulders with John L. Williams. I don't know whether that's so much fun. Watch John L. Williams just swinging out of that backfield. A high percentage pass. Not much chance of interception on this, as he just ducks inside, slides inside, almost the equivalent of a little draw play, but the ball is thrown to him. Watch the end of this play. 23, Sean Gale coming up. Whack. Boy, that's a real collision on the sideline.
226 pounds of John L. Williams picks up 14 yards. 31 seconds left in the half. Wide open is Butler. Does he get down? No.
1 foot in and 1 out as Dave Duerson hammered him. Did not appear that Butler was very conscious of where he was on the sideline. But Duerson may have ended any speculation as he whacks him. Watch Butler. I don't think he really feels that sideline, but here's the hit that ensures that there's no way to get that second foot down. It looked like he may have tapped the line with the first foot anyway. No, he was in with the first one. Fully out with the second one.
Wind really seemed to be drifting the ball.
Blowing the ball. The wind has picked up here, and will definitely, if it stays this way, be a bigger factor in the second half of this game.
25 seconds. To Largent, and Largent to the sidelines to kill the clock with 19 seconds showing at the 41. Now the Seahawks are about a 15-yard gain away from a legitimate field goal try by Norm Johnson. Johnson has good range. His longest is 54. He's kicked 149 this year.
He is kicking against the wind here, and they're going to have to pick up some yardage to give him a chance. But I'm sure that that's what Steve Moore is thinking about. He's the offensive coordinator for Chuck Knox. I think they're thinking position for the field goal.
33-yard line would be the 50-yard try. No, that's not going to work at all. Williams, Singletary was just shadowing Williams into that flat. No chance.
It's a bad choice by Craig. He could see that there was nowhere to go. Better to just drill that one into the ground or out of bounds.
Yeah, that one made no sense at all, did it? So now it's going to bring up fourth down.
Although when you look at it, Dick, if he throws it into the ground, it's going to be fourth. You got to punt it anyway. So maybe throw it into the hands of a receiver, give him a chance. Sorry about that, Dave. You did the right thing.
Yeah, you see our New Year's Day lineup. Nebraska against Florida State in the Fiesta. And Merlin and I will be in Pasadena. Southern Cal takes on the Spartans of Michigan State, followed by the game for the national championship. The Sooners and the Hurricanes, #1 and #2 in the nation. Rodriguez with McKinnon just letting that ball bounce.
And into the wind again. And look at that ball coming right back at him. The second time that Rodriguez has gotten the bad kicks into the wind. If you get a feeling, we mentioned earlier, they don't call this the Windy City for nothing. Right now, the wind really having an impact on the kicking game.
11 yards on that kick by Rodriguez. That's one of those embarrassing moments where the punter has to be alert to down his own punt the way it was bounding back toward him. 1 second left in the half.
11 yards.
See Rusty Tillman there asking a few questions of his punter.
Zach from his own 36-yard line. Seahawks spread their defense all the way back to their own 30.
They're going deep all the way down.
Intercepted by Eugene Robinson. He's to the 40. Flags are down. 50. Just laterals to Edmonds and out of bounds at the 37.
Jeff Bryant would have been called for an illegal block on Mark Blurtz anyway, so no matter what happened, there would not have been a score on that play.
Terry Taylor wound up with the ball, not Edmonds. He'd wished it had been Edmonds the way they hammered
question,
him.
can they end the play with a penalty?
On the run back, number 77, slipping. Half is over.
It's over. Okay.
So this day began gray, and then the sun broke through around 11:30, and it became all the warmer as the fans of Chicago cheered their hero Walter Payton, his final regular season game at Soldier Field in Chicago. And the ultimate compliment from the Bears, the announcement that they were retiring Walter Payton's number 34. Payton and the Bears, late in the half, rally to tie at 7. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
You know, I never thought it would end like this. When I began playing the game of football, I played it because I loved it and it was fun. And that's the same reason I'm playing now, because I love it and it's fun. I guess the hardest thing to do is to say goodbye to the ones you love. And those guys that are standing down there in the end zone are my love. I guess the only thing I can say now is thanks for being there. Thank you.
Walter Payton, as they retired his number before the game against the Seahawks today at Soldier Field. It's interesting to note that the Bears have retired more uniform numbers than any team in the league. Among others, they've set aside the jerseys of Sid Luckman and Bill George, Red Grange, the late Brian Piccolo, but they are yet to retire the numbers of either Gale Sayers or Dick Butkus. No one, however, will wear number 34 again once Walter Payton hangs it up. He had 12 carries for 46 yards in the first half, and the Bears and Seahawks are even up at 7. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. Here comes Sweetness, standing ovation, the first of many for him today at Soldier Field. Bears, of course, are champs of the NFC Central. They want to keep winning to improve their home field advantage possibilities in the playoffs. Here's Darrell Turner giving the Seahawks the lead on the touchdown pass from David Craig. And check Turner's numbers, better than 1 in every 3 receptions for his career, good for 6 points. With the conversion, they lead 7-0. Jim McMahon didn't suit up. Mike Tomczak again at quarterback. Sacked here by Brian Bosworth. Watch Bosworth. He's blocked, he gets back up, and he spins Tomczak down. But Tomczak has the Bears on the move a bit later, and he ties the game off the play-action fake. Everybody follows Payton into the middle of the line, including the cameraman for a while, but there's Emery Moorhead taking the flip and then tumbling into the end zone. The game is tied at 7 at Soldier Field. The Seahawks know that if they win their last 2 games, they're in the playoffs, either as division champions, if Denver cooperates by losing next week to San Diego, or at least as a wild card. Ahmad?
It's a tough spot for Seattle because they go into this game with all the emotion and Walter Payton retiring and everything, and they have a lot of respect for Walter Payton, but they want to make the playoffs, and I'm sure that Chuck Knox is very concerned about their fade. Every year about this time, they sort of fade away. So I guarantee you right now, the first half, they had a lot of emotion about Walter Payton. The second half, it's down to football, and the Seahawks are trying to win this game.
From Chuck Knox to Chuck Noll, somehow he has his Steelers at 8-5. And the game that will likely decide the division title is next Saturday at Three Rivers as the Steelers take on the Browns. But today, Noel and Pittsburgh are at the Astrodome and trailing at the half 10-6. The Steelers are one of the most opportunistic teams in the league. Their 26 interceptions lead the AFC. Here's Dwayne Woodruff picking one off against Warren Moon. That led to one of 2 Gary Anderson field goals in the first half, and the Steelers led 6-0 at one point. That was erased when Moon went up top to Drew Hill. He beats Delton Hall on this play, 52 yards for the touchdown and a 7-6 lead. A Tony Zendejas field goal before the half ended makes it 10-6 in favor of the Oilers. If they win their last 2 And if Pittsburgh wins next Saturday against Cleveland, the Oilers could sneak in as champions of the AFC Central. Minnesota could clinch a wild card today if they win against the Lions, and if St. Louis loses, they're in. Regardless of what anybody else does, if the Vikings win their last two, they also draw a wild card. They're leading in this one at the Silverdome 10-7 at halftime. Philadelphia has not yet reached halftime at the Meadowlands against the Jets. Just a few seconds to play in the second quarter. The Eagles have just tied it on a Randall Cunningham touchdown pass to Mike Quick of 45 yards. New England goes to the third quarter in windy Buffalo with a 13-0 lead. The Patriots know if they lose one more, they're eliminated from the playoff picture. Gusts of up to 35 miles an hour at Rich Stadium today. Here's Steve Grogan from the 7-yard line. Lost one over defender Ron Pitts to Cedric Jones, who makes a nice catch, and a 7-0 lead for the Patriots. Last week, Grogan threw for 4 touchdowns, ran for another against the Jets. Now here's Ronnie Harmon of Buffalo, fumbling the ball, and Steve Nelson, the veteran linebacker who's retiring after this year, recovers for the Patriots. On that possession, they take the ball down deep into Buffalo territory and eventually score on this play. Watch Reggie Dupart. He appears to be bottled up at the line of scrimmage. He breaks it out to the left, and then he bumps off the last defender and into the corner of the end zone. They missed the point after, but they still have the lead of 13-0. They're early in the third quarter. It looks like New Orleans' winning streak will be snapped at 7. They came in with a record of 10-3 at Cincinnati, but at halftime, the Bengals lead 24-10. Boomer Esiason with a pair of touchdown passes. If the Saints lose this one, then San Francisco merely has to win its last 2 games to clinch in the NFC West. When we come back, Frank DeFord will be here. He'll dip into the Christmas gift bag. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Into the Christmas gift bag for some sports toys for this time of year.
Gotta make it to town.
Yeah.
Got to make him hurry, tell him he can take the freeway.
Yes, that's right. Chuck Berry with perhaps the most beloved of all Christmas carols. And now, hail, hail, Frank DeFord, who has been gracious enough to invite me into his living room for a little Yuletide cheer. What do we have here?
Well, thank you, Bob. This is the year that his grandma got run over by a reindeer, and so I think it's time to celebrate. First, Santa's bringing you that for Christmas this year from his big bag.
I see you spared no expense.
Oh, no, none whatsoever. But what I did do is I went down to my corner toy store, because people often say that a society is measured by the kind of toys that its children plays with.
That's pretty much my philosophy.
And so I thought, let's find out what kind of sports toys, what kind of football toys kids are playing with, and let's discover a lot about our society and our culture that way. For example, this, I think, is a classic gift for under the tree. It only took 4 of our crack NBC technicians about 6 hours to put this together this morning, so any father would want that for his child. But it's interesting. Now, you'll see this book, this box that it comes in. The little boy is kicking, and the little girl is standing there with the pom-poms, right? It says pom-poms not included. But I think that what this tells us, and what you find if you go through the toy store, sexist, sexist, sexist. All the toys are for boys. All the sports toys are for boys. You have to look deep into Santa's bag to come up with pom-poms and things like that for the girls. Or look at this. I had to look very hard indeed to find any sports clothes for Barbie and so forth. I finally found a little ski outfit, but it's interesting.
Yeah, but it's Minnie Mouse who's skiing.
Well, I know, but at least she's skiing. She's not in the patio or in the barbecue where most of the outfits are. And even that, she's got a little Walkman, which suggests that girls don't really ski seriously.
No, it's sort of like ski aerobics.
Yeah, that's that sort of thing. Here are some workout gloves, though. It's a little kinky, but workout gloves for little girls that... if you're interested in that. Now, look behind here.
I think you're reading something into this.
No, nothing like that. I'm saying I'm trying to learn.
They are in a lovely lavender.
Now, back here is a basketball hoop. Made by the same people, by the way.
Good, Frank.
Well, it was my left hand. Made by the same people.
Nick Lowry.
Made by the same people who made this. It's interesting. No endorsement goes with this, but Michael Jordan endorses that. Michael Jordan is all over the toy store. He makes more money from endorsements than any other athlete in a team sport, and that was certainly apparent this way. But toy people are smart. For example, even though I live in the Nick area, I could not get any NBA Stars keychain. I could only get, and maybe you'd like to look at this, Celtics keychain.
You know, I was all over FAO Schwartz just yesterday looking for an NBA Stars keychain.
But you can't get any Knicks. You can only get Celtics. You can get Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson, Larry Bird.
They were all out of Joe Dumars.
there you go. But it's a strange thing because there's a lot of weirdness this year in Christmas toys. For example, here there's a whole section. These are wrestlers, thumb wrestlers. Put your thumb in there.
Yeah.
You see, you go like this.
Wait, who is this?
This is Paul Orndorff, and that's...
oh, this is Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff.
And I got...
Rowdy Piper.
See, like that. And
like a figure four leg lock.
There's a whole weird. Here is a karate thing. There's a whole section in every store dealing with these kind of things, and it's even sort of picked up. Can you imagine this as a football toy for a child? And balls themselves.
Sports freaks.
Yeah.
The wild and zany heroes from the world of sports.
Now here, Santa has sort of a normal ball. Take that. That's urethane. Yeah. And I've got a rag ball down here for you, Bob. But the weird thing... Oh,
Ahmad!
This is for you, for your car. Santa wanted to bring you some. This is a weird ball.
Wait a minute, I usually go with the dogs, with those heads that go up and down.
Well, you'll have to move that to the front of your Yugo this year.
These fuzzy dice have seen some mileage, too.
Yes, well, they have, Bob, and I want you to have them. This is the kind of ball that kids... if I were Pete Rozelle, I don't think I'd like that. Do you?
Well, I don't think really Pete is involved in the licensing of this particular pigskin.
Look, though, for baseball, which is everybody's favorite sport, the traditional sport. Now they make Cabbage Patch dolls. This is his birth certificate. Says this is Kurt Bart. And that certainly is the kind of toy that you'd want to give your child, not a weird football.
Yeah, well, these would be selling like hotcakes at Fenway, right?
That's right.
Well, wait a minute. We have to get to this.
All right.
This brings back nightmares. Like every kid in America, I knocked the goalpost over, you spend 15 minutes setting up each play. I went through my whole youth this way, and we know what happens. You put the little fuzzball on this guy's arm, and you set up this elaborate play, Statue of Liberty, and then this guy runs the wrong way. He goes off to the side, and all these other guys bump into each other.
Bob, I'm on offense. I got this set up perfectly. This is a touchdown for sure.
All right, now I've aligned my defense. I'm playing a bizarre 8-3 formation. All right, here we go. Wait a minute. You see, look what I told you. The guy runs around in circles. All heck is broken loose. There's a mad pileup in the end zone. Well, I can see it's going to be a very Merry Christmas at the DeFord household.
And we are going to give these toys to some of the disadvantaged kids in America so that at least something good will come out of this little session.
And who gets the outfit? Mr. Blackwell?
Oh, I'm glad you like that, Bob. Well, some people are into eggnog at Christmas and some people in a little drummer boy, and this is just my annual garb.
Took some guts, I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
I only have one complaint. No rock'em sock'em robots. NFL Live halftime activities will continue. Stay with us.
Against his defense, and the Seahawks weren't able to run the first half.
Dick, I have the feeling that Seahawks almost gave up their running game coming in. They came in saying they wanted to pass. They've tried to run occasionally. They have not been able to do so. And I think that's really going to hurt them here in the second half because the wind is kicking up. Passing game is going to be a little more difficult because of the wind. And also, once you have said, in essence, we can't run the football, you really pass an advantage to the defense.
Well, the game is there for the asking, and you get the feeling it's going to be that one big turnover that's going to spell the difference. The two touchdowns came on short passes. The first by Dave Craig to Darrell Turner, Turner's only catch of the first half.
A very nice pass, and Turner going up high. As we said, Turner has not done much over the past few weeks, so that was a happy moment for him.
And then play action fake to Payton, and a fine throw by Tom Zach to Emery Moorhead. His first touchdown reception of this season to tie it at 7-all. Even though the Bears have more than twice as many yards as the Seahawks this first half, it's tied at 7.
They were squandering opportunities, the missed field goal, the block early, and of course that opportunity to first score in 6 quarters for the Bears.
17, the New York Jets.
Seahawks will get the ball first to open this second half. This kickoff is sponsored by Budweiser, the king of beers. Kevin Butler to kick it off. Bobby Joe Edmonds. And then David Hollis to return. A day that has just been incredibly fortunate for fans, although the Bears would have hoped that it was uglier in terms of the rain and cold. Temperature must be around 40 now. Butler's kick. Edmonds takes it out of the end zone. Breaks into the clear at the 30 and a saving tackle. And a flag, 2 flags are down back at the 18-yard line.
It looks like penalties will go against Seattle and will move this ball all the way back to the 10. A costly penalty for Seattle that looked to have excellent field position to begin this second half.
On the run back, number 87. Illegal block in the back, above the waist.
Wilbur Strozier
and it'll be first down.
The illegal block and a good tackle by Will Johnson, although it's a moot point now. And Gary Fensick lost in the Payton drama. Fensick from Yale, he's playing in his last regular season game, the all-time tackler, total tackles and interceptions in Bear history.
Now, this part of the game is never easy. Well, watch Fensick as he is just leveled on that play by Tony Woods. He'll give you all he's got and then some.
Seattle starting deep in its own end. Another flag down as Warner gets out to the 18-yard line.
2 flags down. There's a second flag here, I think, on Todd Bell. A flag on Mattis at the top, and I think they're going to bring this play and run it over again.
Fred Silva.
First penalty, I believe, is on number 70, Mattis, and it looked like there may have been a penalty on the tackle out of bounds against the Bears.
70, illegal block on the offense. 25, face mask, out of bounds on the defense. Play will go over. Replay.
So no play.
Let's watch it all the way through. There was the illegal block by Mattis, and there is the face mask at the end of the play by Todd Bell. So the play will begin again. Seattle coming right out to attempt the running game. We talked about the fact that they'd almost given up the running game coming in. They obviously want to try and establish something here to start this second half.
Only 30 yards rushing for the Seahawks in the first half against the NFL's best defense against the rush. Down the middle to Largent. And he gets to the 34-yard line before Vesty Jackson can wrap him up. Largent, 25 yards on the play.
Big catch. Here are the stats. You see that 30-yard rushing. The Bears have 74. Of course, the Bears with much more in the way of yardage. We mentioned squandering a couple of opportunities. One big turnover there. Time of possession very, very much in favor of the Bears, with the score deadlocked 7-all.
Another fumble on the snap, and Craig falls on it. That's the second time that's happened today, and Craig fumbled on a third occasion.
You've got to wonder what's going on down at the line of scrimmage, but Greg Fiesel really has a difficult job. Not only is he asked to come in and replace the starting center, but he's asked to watch a Bear defense that jumps around constantly. He has to be making calls down there because he's the only man that has his head out over that ball. Watch how he has his head out over the ball. He's got to make calls virtually on every play. You see him looking left and right. He has already made a call right there.
Second down and 12. Out of the backfield, incomplete to Williams.
I hope Grant Fiesel's wife won't call and say, please, his name is Grant, not Greg.
Well, Greg up there played with the Packers. We're wondering, wait a minute. Yeah. Singletary banged up on the play, and one of the stars of that defensive unit against the rush that the Chicagoans can ill afford to lose. 3rd and a dozen. Good move by Craig. Another flag down as Craig slides to the 50, and Wilbur Marshall securing.
Richard Dent says, just bring it back here, folks, because it ain't going to go nowhere. Costly penalties hurting the Bears in the first half as they messed up some opportunities, and here in the second half, penalties hurting on the other side. There's a lock inside by Ed Bailey, but I don't think that's the one they called. I think they called the one on the outside.
So instead of the first down out at midfield.
Offense holding, number 65.
No, they did call
10
that
yards, still 3rd down.
Yeah, that was the one. Well, we saw the same one you saw.
Well, Seattle marched back to the 22.
Middle of your screen, 65 working on Dan Hampton, 99, and he's just got a lock from the backside. And I'll tell you, if you're an offensive lineman assigned to protect that quarterback, probably better off to hold because they don't call them all, believe me.
Well, it's a 28-yard play, 10 yards on the penalty, 18 taken away, and now Mattis pulls up from his stance. That's another 5 yards for illegal procedure.
Well, for a minute there, with that big reception to Largent, it looked like the Seattle offense was getting in gear. Right now, they're locked in reverse. Well, no question about that. Trying to get the jump. Dent so quick upfield. Maybe the quickest upfield rusher that this Seattle team will face all year.
15 yards of the penalties here early in the third quarter for Seattle. Tied at 7. Early moments, third period. Seattle battling in the AFC West for a playoff spot. The Bears have won the NFC Central, but still with hopes of that home field advantage throughout.
Dick, there was question as to how the Bears would respond to that 41-0 game, how they would react during this week. They've had good practices all week, and they have played well in this game. They certainly have appeared to come back and play well, and Ditka has to be pleased about that.
Apparently this is a delay.
Please reset the clock to 13 minutes and 8 seconds.
So another 17 seconds to be placed back on the clock. You can feel, even though it's sunny and appears to be warm, that wind is colder and colder.
There is the clock as it's reset. The other thing you can feel is the growing pressure on Dave Craig. And the one knock against this quarterback, his numbers are magnificent, but the one knock against him is that there are times when the pressure heats up that Craig seems to lose his confidence.
The Seahawks players pointing back into the end zone at those fans for whatever reason. Maybe something was thrown out. Third down, 28.
This sounds like the Kingdome.
Well, Hampton was offside. John L. Williams doesn't get a thing. Wilbur Marshall brings him down.
Good move inside by Grant Fiesel as he saw the defender offside, snapped the football on him.
Offside, 5 yards.
Well, Hampton trying to get the jump.
You train a center offensively that when someone is offsides, doesn't matter what the count is, you go ahead and snap that football because you know you've got a free play and an instant 5 yards. Fiesel did that. Of course, they'll pick up the 5 yards to take advantage of it. Quarterback draw. Get on the ground.
Dorson makes the tackle at the 29, a gain of 7 for Craig.
Strictly to position the ball, get a few extra yards, and Knox is trying to play field position with Ditka right now. This play, of course, designed to get the first down if possible, but more than anything, to get a better shot with the punt, because you're punting right into the teeth of that wind. And as you've seen earlier, Rodriguez has had 2 horrible punts going from our right to left.
As he is picking now, the Seahawks will have the wind advantage in the fourth quarter. This one, a wobbler, McKinnon at his 31. And buried at the 35. Timeout, 11:30 remaining in the third quarter. Here in Chicago, a tie game at 7.
Today's game is brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors, who invites you to come see the full line of cars and trucks. Mitsubishi, suddenly the obvious choice. By Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light, it doesn't get any better than this. And by RCA, the most trusted name in electronics.
Sellout of 66,000 at Soldier Field. Many here to pay tribute to the great Walter Payton, who leads all rushers in the game with 47 first-half yards, and Payton opens in the backfield with Neil Anderson behind Mike Tomczak here in the second half. Anderson on the sweep. Anderson playing with a rib-in.
Fumble. Ball is fumbled.
And Bosworth comes up with it.
It's going to be a touch. No.
He may have a touchdown. He's to the 1-yard line, the 1-foot line, before he's wrestled into the end zone.
They're calling it dead, I think, just inside, just outside of the goal line, and someone is down on the field.
Maybe
one
Anderson.
of the Bears down. A strange play, no whistle. Anderson came up out of the stack empty. The ball not there. Seahawks pounced on it, picked it up, carried it downfield.
If maybe Tomczak was injured, a blocker taking care of it is the quarterback of the Bears, and that'll be interesting on the replay, because from our angle, you couldn't see the ball pop free. Whether or not that was just a matter of someone reaching in and just wrestling it away from Anderson before he hit the ground.
Tomczak up a little bit shakily, but up under his own power. Here's the end of the play. Let's look and see if we can see what happened here. Ball being stripped right there. Is that Freddie Young? 50? 55. The Boz has got it and took it away. Boz actually stealing the ball from Anderson while Anderson was still up. And then getting up off the ground because no one touched him to get all the way down just inside of the 1-yard line. Now, officials, I think, waiting for a review of that particular play.
Well, that may be the biggest play the $1 million linebacker of the Seahawks has authored in this, his rookie year, and it's going to count.
Well, I think he's glad they're not paying him by the play in this first year.
Hello to Mom down in Irving, Texas. So a steal by Bosworth as he had the momentum going. Anderson falling forward. He wrestled it away and takes it to the 1-foot line. 4 shots for Seattle to take the lead. Warner over the top for the touchdown. So Bosworth's steal equals 6 for the Seahawks and the lead 13-7.
At a time when it appeared that the emotion of this game swinging in favor of the Bears, the Seahawks come back, steal the football, put themselves out in front, and be reminded that they are going to have the wind at their backs in the fourth quarter, a real advantage. They've scored for the second time against the wind today. Well, he does, indeed.
And we talked about that one big turnover. We had not had a turnover in the first half, and Bosworth not only gets the ball, but positions it at the 1-foot line for the easy touchdown. Norm Johnson adds the extra point. And for the fans of the Seahawks up in the great Northwest, a moment of joy, 14-7. And Bosworth, well, he said he's been unhappy. Looks like this might... We'll learn in a moment whether it'll be Jim Harbaugh, the rookie from Michigan, at quarterback for Chicago, or whether or not Tomczak's okay.
Harbaugh putting his hand into a muff to keep it warm. Looked like Tomczak a little shaken up. But he may be all right. May get back into the ballgame. We'll have to wait.
Gentry and Sanders at the other end of Johnson's kickoff.
Oh, the wind held that one.
Boy, did it ever. Sanders at the 8. And that proved to be a very effective kick, because if you don't catch it on the fly, then you really allow those special teams to come down and bury you.
The last play, the spotlight on number 55, Brian Bosworth. Watch him steal a football out of the arms of Anderson right there. Now the ball is gone at that point, and Bosworth has it locked away. Good, clean steal reviewed upstairs by the replay officials. No question about it. And here, of course, the touchdown, as Warner simply goes airborne and finds room over the top.
Right behind John L. Williams. Calvin Thomas, number 33, into the backfield for the first time, joining Walter Payton. And Tomczak stays at quarterback. Payton's first carry of the second half, not for much. So Seattle leads 14-7 in the third. Let's go to Bob Costas in New York.
Well, Dick, we saw Brian Bosworth do his thing in your game a few moments ago. Here's Scott Radisek stripping the ball away from Reggie Dupard of the Patriots. It's picked up by Sean McNanny. 14 yards later, he's in the end zone. Buffalo's on the board in the third, trailing the Patriots 13-7.
All right, Bob, so 2 key fumble recoveries, and the Bills are back in their game with New England. Matt Suey's first carry of 1987. I'll repeat that. Suey, longtime partner of Payton in the backfield for the Bears, had not carried the ball all year until that play.
And Anderson is on the bench. We saw them checking his knee moments ago after that carry and fumble. So Suey had gone in to replace him, and now an extra receiver. There is Anderson on the end of the bench, and the ice pack on the knee tells its own story.
And he's been playing with a broken rib. So at this stage, I guess every coach could sing the same sad song about how many men are really hurt, but that's part of the nature, the penalty of this game. 3rd and long, underneath to Morris. Good play by Morris. And he's out to the 32-yard line and a first down.
There should be a penalty on that one. Yes, there is.
Late hits.
There's no excuse for that. Morris and one of the defenders wrestling about 7 yards out of bounds, and the defender absolutely threw him on the ground.
Unsportsmanlike conduct. Number 25 out of bounds, throwing the runner to the ground unnecessarily. 15 yards, first down.
Yeah. Let's watch the play all the way through. Great balance by Morris. Now, as he gets out of bounds, watch the end of this play. Hollis driving him out. He's 7 yards out of bounds. And that is what he's penalized for, and rightfully so. Got to tell you, that is dumb football.
That is a mental mistake. You understand Neil Anderson's knee injury is serious enough he'll not play the remainder of the game. The Bears get another penalty break, and certainly that situation has just reversed itself. Chicago with key penalties against in the first half, and it's Seattle making the mistakes on penalties here in the 3rd quarter. Tomczak, incomplete. And the ball thrown to the sidelines, in particular to the near sidelines. The wind seems to really drive them off the field of play. That ball was being carried by the breeze.
The way this stadium is built, Dick, this low-lying stadium, it really doesn't stop much of the wind. The wind just comes in over the top of it, drops down, and sweeps along through the field, often swirling, but always, when it's blowing like this, having an impact on the way the ball flies. And it's hard to guess with it. You throw it downwind, it may just take off on you.
And even the flags, as you look at them around the stadium, are contradictions.
They don't know which way to go.
On 2nd and 10.
Big pressure screen.
To Suey. Breaks a tackle. And he's to the Seattle 43-yard line. First down, Chicago.
We've seen a couple of critical missed tackles on the day. Bosworth earlier. Fred Young had an opportunity to shut this play down for virtually no gain. Right in the middle of your screen, number 50. He's going to end up in position to make this play. But watch the end of the play right here. Misses the tackle. And Suey just pulls free and humps down that sideline for a first down.
Joe Nash, the nose tackle, with good hustle to make the tackle. Trailing 14-7, 9 minutes left, 3rd quarter. The Bears have the ball, first down at the Seattle 42. Gavin Thomas, number 33, gets his first carry. He's a load, and he's got a first down to the 30. Thomas, a 245-pound runner out of the University of Illinois.
Hit by Robinson, brought down by Easley.
What a turnaround there. Look at that. Philadelphia getting back again over the top of the Jets.
A fumble recovery for a touchdown by Buffalo to tighten the game with the Patriots, and New Orleans was down 21 points and has scored 21 unanswered to tie Cincinnati. Ringing the death knell for Sam White if he loses this one. Payton. Payton, his brother, who played in the NFL for 9 years, a kick returner, dropped by at halftime, Merlin, and said, well, it'd be nice if Walter get a touchdown today. He said, no, I think the fans really want is for him to get 100 yards rushing.
Well, he's certainly giving it a run here. You see him setting up the blocks. Payton knows how to do that. Gives his blockers an opportunity and then breaks quickly upfield. Just short of the first down. And right now you sense Chicago taking control on the line of scrimmage. I mentioned how important the running game is to them and how vulnerable Seattle's defense has been to the running game during this season. Right now, Chicago offense exploiting that weakness.
Payton has 57 yards today. That's best among all rushers in the game.
It's been a long time. What, 14 games since he's had one over, 17 games since he's had one over 100? Long time.
Building with each yard on his own all-time rushing record. Tom Zach, as they've done so often, just wedging in on that sneak for the first down yardage at the 20.
You have to wonder if anyone will approach that record in time. I thought Brown's record might have been one that no one would touch, and yet here Payton is well beyond that. Of course, the question of staying healthy for as many years as he has, it's hard for me to believe that we're going to have another running back with that kind of longevity and that kind of talent. I mean, maybe one or the other, but not both in tandem.
Well, it's a first down inside the 20, and Payton gets the call. Walter Payton to the 5. Eugene Robinson spoiled the party as you look into the box. The Walter Payton family and friends who are here to honor him today.
A high school coach and a college coach, both of whom remember seeing Walter Payton make this kind of plays for them. And there he is down near the 5-yard line. Chicago trying to get themselves back on track. Again, classic Payton quickness and lateral movement.
71 yards for Payton. Calvin Thomas struggling to the 2. 6:25 remaining third quarter.
Asking Waller to get up inside, and although he missed the block, he forced Sonny Wood so far out with no chance for him to get back into the play.
Payton 5'10", 205 pounds. Picked as the 4th player in the 1975 draft. And missed only one game in his career. Said he could have played in that one.
There he goes.
Touchdown, Walter Payton. His 109th rushing touchdown, an NFL record. In a blaze of glory, Tom Catlin, the appreciative defensive coordinator of the Seahawks. Who can better appreciate the talent of a man like Payton than the men who try to stop him? Butler trying to tie it up. Flag down.
Well, Dick, at the end of that play, Payton took the football and instead of spiking it, threw it up into the stands. Now, that'll cost him some money, but I got to tell you, I think it was his way of saying this one is for all of you who are here today.
5-yard penalty.
Payton, you saw go down and give a kiss to Neil Anderson. That's Anderson with a jacket on who won't play the rest of the day. Anderson will replace Payton. Anderson's had the better numbers this year, both rushing and receiving. Wouldn't you have liked to have had a microphone there and hear what Payton might have shared with Anderson? And the memories weren't always sweet for Walter. He couldn't believe how little his teammates cared when he first came up to play Pro Bowl. Bobby Joe Edmonds to the 25-yard line. But here is His Majesty, the sweetness in action with his 109th rushing touchdown.
And the emotion that we talked about at the beginning of the day, very evident in this drive. Look at the balance as Payton picks himself back up and then delivers that ball into the stands. Hey, this one is for the fans and also for all of us who shared the pain and the tears and the good days and the bad days.
Yeah, they retired his jersey. He said, here's a keepsake for some lucky Bear fan. Will that be a prized possession?
One of the things you wonder about, Dick, if Payton's career had worked the other way around, if he'd come to championship teams and then had ended up with poor teams, would he have carried that same emotion all the way through? I don't know if he would have been able to carry that same intensity, but he has done it so very well.
Injured Will Johnson, 93, a reserve linebacker. On that special teams, 5:32 showing, third quarter. Game tied now at 14. Seattle has taken the lead twice, only to find the Bears countering. And Walter Payton with his best rushing game of the year, over 70 yards.
Well, the one thing the Bears have demonstrated during this season is the ability to come back. They certainly have jumped back here in this one today. They haven't done it every week, as we noticed on Monday night, but they have done it here as they've come back to tie the ball game. And now the responsibility clearly on the shoulders of the Seattle offense. They've got to show something here, because if the Bear defense can take the ball away from them or pin them down and force a kick here, the emotion continues to ride squarely on the side of Chicago.
Now you get the sense that Payton can't wait to get back in and carry again, and the fans certainly would be in full accord. Little screen is wide open to Williams. He's got blockers, 35, 40. 2 men to beat. 40, 1 man to beat at the 30. Cuts back, and he's going to go all the way for a Seattle touchdown. John L. Williams, a little screen that was wide open. They caught the Bears, trapped them inside, and they had better numbers going down the field.
And I believe what they took advantage of was the reaction, the good reaction of the defense. I think it was a double screen. It looked like they faked the screen to the right and dropped it back out to the left, and the Bears defense had reacted so quickly that they were out of position. We'll give you some replays on that after the kick. Right now, Ditka's elation of a moment ago replaced by genuine concern as Seattle roars right back.
One of their longest plays of the season, 75 yards. Johnson adds the extra point. So just as the fans were elated with the Payton touchdown in the tie, the Seahawks counter with a 75-yard scoring play. Seahawks counter with a 75-yard scoring play. 75 yards. The fake to Warner, setting up the screen to Williams, and we'll show it to you right after the kickoff. And some interesting blocks downfield. Norm Johnson to Dennis Gentry and Thomas Sanders. Sanders at the 4. And tackled inside the 15. Let's go back to the touchdown play. The longest touchdown play of the year for Seattle.
I think what they were able to do here is take advantage of the emotion and the eagerness of the defense. Look how the Bears sweeping to their right. Craig did a good job of faking. No one home. Vestide Jackson knocked down by Feasel. Mattis is going to get a block upfield. And watch it as there's another block that you didn't see there, but we will show it to you in just a second. And here's the final block, and you might have guessed who it would be. Steve Largent, number 80, as he gets in behind, gets a little push on Wilbur. There's Wilbur Marshall right there with a chance. No chance after he got knocked down.
Now we talk about Payton's ability to complete play as a blocker, and there's Largent downfield. Tom Zach, what a throw! And it's a first down to McKinnon out to the 34-yard line. Tom Zach almost in the grass and control, able to dart that one forward for 21 yards.
Dick, we started this day talking about the incredible highs and lows that you get during a football season. Well, you also get those same highs and lows in a game. We've seen it just on almost back-to-back plays, and now the Bears back and heading upfield. Fine play by Tom Zach. Watch Tom Zach elude the rush here, and as he's heading for the line, just flick that ball. Good, strong pass. Oh, and boy, did he take a whop from Bosworth, number 55.
Helmet to helmet. Terry Taylor made the tackle. First down at the 33. Reverse. Willie Golf. Slips down at the 40.
Same kind of philosophy. Misdirection. You try and catch your defense being too eager, being too pumped up. You give them something to react to and come back the other direction. Several players for Seattle in position to make this play, but Galt's speed ends up giving them some extra yardage. Look, there are all kinds of people out there. Bruce Schultz, 58, just not quick enough to keep the leverage on number 83, Willie Galt.
Well, we may see Willie Galt in Calgary as a member of the U.S. Olympic team. He's considered seriously as a member of a four-man bobsled team.
They want his speed to give him that good start. Boy, he can do it.
That would be ironic in that his chance in 80 to win a medal in the Olympics, of course, taken away by the boycott. A fumble by Payton, and it's covered by Young of Seattle at the 33-yard line. Payton unable to handle the feed from his quarterback, and Fred Young in the right place for the recovery.
Almost a placid, quiet. Did the air go out of this stadium, or did it go out of this stadium? Here is the play, an inside handoff, and Payton momentarily looking up at the penetration by Young, just got that ball bounced off his arms.
When you talk about the big plays in the game, the Bosworth fumble as he stole it from Anderson, took it to the 1-foot line for an easy touchdown, and then the 75-yard touchdown, and now another turnover. And the Bears have been guilty of too many of those this year, despite the fact they have an outstanding record. Craig trying to capitalize immediately, going deep for Butler, and broken up by Doerson. Dave Doerson diving in and knocking away as his teammate Mike Richardson goes into a snow pile.
Boy, he goes all the way into the back. Reminds me of the old field here, the Wrigley Field, where you went into the bushes. But they had ivy on those walls. Sometimes you'd hit the bricks. There he is, sliding into the snow at the far end of this field.
Second down and 10. Good play by Doerson. Largent to the near side. Butler to the far. And it's Warner. And it's Doerson coming up to make the hit at the 29, along with Wilbur Marshall. Singletary there as well. Freddie Young, the man who recovered that fumble, he has been around the ball all season long, forcing fumbles, recovering them, leading in sacks.
I think he'll probably make his way back to another one of those Pro Bowls this year. That voting taking place, if I'm not mistaken, this week, isn't it, Dick?
I think they are going to ballot. The players and coaches will offer their votes as the top opponents.
A big series for this Bear defense. And for Seattle's offense as well.
Butler, no first down. He's 3 yards short at the 27. Maurice Douglas, number 37, in the offseason earned some notoriety as a male stripper. Makes that tackle.
Well, Mike Ditka said earlier this season, after the 10th week of the season, we know people cannot run the football on us. All we have to do is be smart about our pass coverage. Well, San Francisco did run the football, a lot of that coming from scrambles by Steve Young, a running quarterback. But today, they have been effective in shutting off the running game. Seattle has found other ways to score.
45-yard attempt by Norm Johnson. His first attempt of the game. Low, but far enough, and he drives it through. That ball wasn't more than 15 feet off the ground all the way. A line drive three-pointer for Norm Johnson, and Seattle builds its lead to 10.
Kicking into the wind, he knew he had to drive it low. I'm surprised we didn't have more Bears with hands up. Had they had their hands up, they might have stopped it.
Yeah, a little higher than 10, but old baseball coach Merlin Olsen, Grover Riesinger, used to say, I can judge a man's character by his eyes. He used to grade him 5, 4, 3, like Douglas MacArthur had 5 eyes. Not many did. These two coaches tell you a lot with their eyes.
They really do, and you can go down and look at these coaches. You have a feeling. I played for Knox for 5 years. I got to tell you, one of the strongest things we had to do after the game was get by Knox, who stood by the dressing room and looked each guy in the eye coming in.
That was really a character check. Dennis Gentry to the 20-yard line. And those hardly baby blue eyes of Chuck Knox
can be felt like lasers depending on his mood.
I'll tell you, if you had not played well, he looked right through you.
In other words, as you came off the field into the locker room, Knox would try to beat you there, and you don't have to pass through his glance.
He always got there ahead of you, and he was waiting, and he'd look each guy in the eye coming into that locker room at the end of the day. And I got to tell you that on the bad days, you might try and hurry to get there ahead of him.
Well, Seattle has the lead, 24-14 for Knox. Plenty of time, 2:50 remaining in the third. Tomczak on a scramble. Joe Nash strips it away, and Seattle has it again at the 20-yard line.
And Tomczak, who was credited earlier with that fumble, not Payton, but Tomczak credited with the fumble earlier, has fumbled again. The bugaboo that rested so heavily on him last week with the 4 interceptions he threw in the first half, 6 turnovers overall last week, has come back to haunt the Bears here in the second half in particular. Watch Tomczak running away, doing a good job here, but look at him carrying that football like a loaf of bread, and there is the swat right there by Joe Nash, who just simply spotted the ball and knocked it loose.
And Bosworth with his second fumble recovery. There have been 3 fumbles covered by Seattle in this third quarter. The first 2 leading to a touchdown and a field goal. Now from the 20, Craig with a 10-point advantage and a chance to really make it tough on Chicago, as the Bears have to at least force just a field goal. But it's Warner knifing off tackle for 6 or 7. Todd Bell, 25, with the stop.
On the last turnover, Seattle had gone instantly for the points in the end zone with a deep pass. They reversed that philosophy here and give it to Warner on the little draw play. And there's the man who stripped it away, nose tackle Joe Nash. I'll tell you, that's smart football. And that's one thing that this Seattle team has done better than anyone over the period of about 4 or 5 years with Knox and Catlin in Seattle, is break that ball loose from their opponents.
John L. Williams to the 11 will be a yard shy of a first down. Steve McMichael, number 76. William Perry, the 2 tackles in on the stop. Mike Ditka crediting, he's going to the Big Red. That's right, the cinnamon flavor. As Ditka yesterday said, McMichael, no one talks enough about him. He has been just a solid player game after game.
Yeah, I think Mike may be chewing something a little more harsh than Big Red right now. But I'll tell you, there's some chewing going out on the field. And when you get turnovers like you've seen today from the offense, it really makes it tough on a defensive team.
Big play for that Bear defense. 3rd and 1. Oh, a good fake
Play
by
action.
Craig, but not able to hit his receiver.
Gutsy call, call, but it backfires. And Craig, angry at himself, Tice looked to be open and looked to be in position to pick up that first down, and Norm Johnson called from the sideline.
Well, this is a big call if indeed they're going for the field goal, because even if they're successful, the Bears are within 2 touchdowns of the lead. A touchdown here would have really
put it away from them, and I think that's what they were thinking of when they made a call.
29-yard field goal.
28-yard attempt. Ooh, and Johnson nails it down the middle. So the 2 fumbles by Tomczak lead to 2 Johnson field goals. And with 1:08 left in the third quarter, it's Seattle 27, the Bears 14.
Chance to watch Johnson. Mark Bortz literally pushing one of those linemen almost all the way back to the kicker.
Jeff Kemp, the holder.
Kemp, a quarterback, and you always have the possibility of the fake. Forces you to respect it a little bit. There's Bortz, 62, as he almost found room to get all the way back to the kicker with his hands. Norm Johnson really has done a good job of kicking this year. He had some hamstring problems, actually some groin problems earlier in the year. And on a cold day like today, you really worry about a kicker trying to overextend and maybe hurt himself.
A reminder, this telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Chicago Bears and the National Football League is prohibited. Seattle in a position of at least quiet desperation, knowing that losses are going to send them home for the playoffs. Remember, last year they were 10-6, but lost out on the tiebreaker system as the Jets in Kansas City got in as cards. Sanders to the 26-yard line. Yeah, so much ahead. It's going to be a busy sports time on NBC these holidays. First, the second half of our doubleheader, the Browns and the Raiders in Los Angeles, and some of you will see the Colts and Eric Dickerson go against Dan Fouts and the San Diego Chargers. And next Saturday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, a renewal of one of football's better rivalries. The Browns will make that little freeway trip down to Pittsburgh and Three Rivers with possibly the championship of the Central Division at stake.
Oh, you talk about emotion. That one brings the most out of both of those cities.
Calvin Thomas and Walter Payton, and Payton in motion behind Tomczak. Down the middle, complete to Dennis McKinnon at the 48-yard line. Terry Taylor on the coverage.
Paul Blair, who's playing left tackle for the injured Jimbo Covert, literally grabbed Jeff Bryant from the backside and got away with it. You see him heading upfield with a sigh of relief. Bryant had broken loose. Blair just grabbed him from the backside, stopped him enough to let that pass get away, and the Bears again moving rather quickly.
Clock ticking away, final seconds of the third quarter, 20 seconds. Ron Morris at the 40. And down at the 32. The last man was Eugene Robinson. He saved the touchdown. 20 more yards for the Bears at the end of the third quarter. A big quarter for Seattle. 27-14 Seahawks. As you see, Morris making the catch and kicking free, and will return to Soldier Field in Chicago for the fourth quarter after these messages from your local station. From the fourth quarter in Chicago, the Bears trailing Seattle 27-14 have a first down inside the 35 of the Seahawks. Calvin Thomas. Boy, you could hear the thuds as he barreled into the defensive linebacker Fred Young, nearly 10 on the play. Let's go to NFL Live and Bob Costas.
All right, Dick, here's the situation in Buffalo. 4th and 3 from the New England 5, trailing 13-7. The Bills do not go for the field goal. They try for the go-ahead touchdown. Kelly has lots of time, but the Patriots have all the receivers blanketed. The pass falls incomplete in the end zone. The Pats continue to lead 13-7 late in the fourth.
Now that all to the dismay of the Buffalo Bills fans. Here it's the Bears fans trying to spur the Chicago offense. On first down, nothing there.
There really is a sense, Dick, of Chicago dominating on the line of scrimmage. But Seattle finding a way with the big plays to win here in the second half.
The Houston Oilers up by 4 at home against the Steelers. Houston still with designs in the playoffs. New Orleans with an incredible comeback in the second half. 21 points to tie the Bengals, and it's still New England, as you heard, leading at Buffalo by 6. Second down 9. Calvin Thomas, 2 or 3 yards. Well, before we come up with our football next weekend, as you see, an injured player, Mark Bortz, 62, gets up. We all have our Christmas wishes. Do you have looking for anything special?
Well, I think my wish would be able to spend a few pleasant days with my family. It's been a busy fall, Dick, and I know that it's a time when you enjoy being with your kids and your loved ones. And
well, let's see here. The Bears fans have an offer, too.
They have a definite wish. Santa, please. Well,
hey, that's one of the better signs of the year. That moves into the top 10.
I got to tell you, there are about 27 other teams around the league who've put in a similar wish.
That's right. Well, Payton's had a good day on this, his day of celebration, retirement of his number 34. pregame ceremonies. On 3rd and 5, Tomczak.
What a catch by Gentry. A one-handed stab. Dennis Gentry to the 10.
Tomczak rifled that shot. Gentry using those gloves to control it with his left hand. Gentry coming left to right across your screen right there. And watch him as he just sticks that hand out, controls the football, brings it in. Eugene Robinson and Paulus finally there to stop him, but they've got the ball down to the 5-yard line.
They said the 10. It's the 5-yard line, 1st and goal early in the 4th quarter, trailing 27-14. His 13th season has been his worst in many ways statistically. Neil Anderson had taken over the role as the top rusher and receiver, but he has saved his best game of the year for this one. Trouble with a snap, but a good job on the hold by Tomczak to get it down for Butler, and the Bears, growling again, are down by only 6. Now the fans here in Chicago understandably still thinking that Walter Payton is going to have a very special day on this Sunday, and Payton's second touchdown has moved him and the Bears to within 6 of Seattle, 27-21. Over 16,000 yards rushing. He doesn't think small in inches, but just in case, 777,000 inches in his rushing and receiving. Bobby Joe Edmonds. To the 19 and a flag down, where you expect that Seattle will be penalized 10 more. And Gary Fensick is in a little rumble upfield. Nothing serious in that confrontation, but it appears that Seattle will start from their own 10-yard line.
On the return, holding the kicking team offside. Replay.
Oh, that's a break for Seattle.
A big break for Seattle, as they would have started that series on their own 10-yard line.
Offside on the kickoff. That's not something that a coach expects to see next to last game of the season.
Jim Morrissey, who's just come off the injured reserve list, a little eager to get downfield.
So Seattle will get a second chance. They'll kick it again from the 35. Chuck Knox, Mike Ditka, who said earlier that they go all the way back to Ditka's high school days at Aliquippa when he played against a high school team coached by Knox. It became, a one-point?
A one-point game. Ditka said, I'm not sure who won. He said, I got knocked out. Knox remembered well. He said, my team won that game by 1 point. But they carry the same kind of proud tradition from tough beginnings and the same kind of interior toughness. One of the special things they both share.
Merlin Olsen, Dick Enberg at noisy Soldier Field in Chicago. Seattle Seahawks fighting for the playoffs. Lead the Bears 27-21. 12 minutes remaining in the fourth. Bobby Joe Edmonds. Whoa, as he hit at the 23-yard line. Walter Payton. A day of celebration as they've honored the great running back of the Bears. Surprised him by retiring his uniform number 34 prior to the game today. Here's his second touchdown.
You watch it from this angle, you can appreciate it, but if you really want to appreciate it, watch it from this angle at full speed. Boy, I'll tell you, he is still a handful and something else to watch. And he puts a second football into the stands at the opposite end of the field.
Crowd back in it for Chicago.
Craig underneath to his fullback, Williams, out to the 32-yard line. He'll be close to a first down. Houston leading Pittsburgh by a point. Minnesota by 3 at Detroit. Philadelphia apparently will beat the Jets. A final, New England, and that a mild upset, beats Buffalo. The Bills were in the driver's seat in the East. Cincinnati and New Orleans in a scramble as the Saints came from well behind. 2nd and 1. Warner to the 34. There'll be a first down. Seattle and Chicago were tied at 7 at the half. Bosworth stole a ball from Neil Anderson early in the third quarter, returned it to the Chicago 1-foot line where Warner dived for the touchdown. Payton then capped a long drive to tie it for Chicago. Then Craig to Williams, a 75-yard touchdown on a screen pass for 21-14. Then 2 Tom Sack fumbles led to 2 Norm Johnson field goals to make it 27-14 after 3. And now Payton has just capped a long drive to pull Chicago to within 27-21 with 10:24 left in the fourth quarter. Oh, what is that? Craig's 4th fumble of the game, and Seattle has recovered all 4. 2 have been on snaps, and 2 when Craig just dropped the ball.
A strange, strange day for Craig, who does not have particularly large hands as a quarterback. It is getting cold down there. This one is just going to slip out of his hands as he brings that ball up. Just came loose. He had the presence of mind to get back on that football, but that puts him way, way back with long, long yardage to go. And Dick, as you recap that scoring and you look at the fact that Chicago really has been able to dominate on the line of scrimmage. They have been able to shut down Seattle's running game and run the ball effectively, over 150 yards rushing. But Seattle, as is typical of Knox's teams, has found a way to win with big plays and turnovers.
Or at least a way to be ahead.
A way to be ahead. Certainly not winning yet, but they found a way to get ahead in this game.
16 yards lost on that last play, and now Craig on the quarterback draw gets out of trouble at the 27.
When I say find a way to win, that's one of his philosophies is when you are outmanned or when you are having difficulty on the field, there are probably going to be 4 or 5 occasions, 4 or 5 big plays during the game. You have got to take advantage of those opportunities. And they have done that today with the fumbles and the turnovers.
Knox's teams have already beaten Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota. The other members of the NFC Central are trying to make it a clean sweep if he beats the Bears today. 3rd and 18. Protection. And a good throw to Butler and a saving tackle. He was down. No fumble. He was down at the 40.
He's down at the 40, but he's short of the first down, and they'll have to kick it away. But the one thing they get with that pass is much better field position for their defense. Ditka pumped. Here's the catch. The ball will come loose, as you'll see, after contact with the ground. So there is no fumble there. And now, of course, Seattle will be kicking with the wind. They've had real trouble kicking into the breeze today.
Reggie Phillips, let's go back, credit him. That was a good open field tackle that denied the first down. Rodriguez kicking to dangerous Dennis McKinnon. It's a beautiful spiral. To the 10. Oh, McKinnon almost didn't get that ball. Good open field tackle. Tony Woods.
What a nice play by the rookie.
8 minutes, 24 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter at Soldier Field.
Today's game is brought to you by Bud Light, proud sponsor of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. Everything else is just alike. By Radio Shack, the technology store. And by Remington Micro Screen Shavers.
Dick Enberg, Merlin Olsen at Soldier Field. The drama building in this fourth quarter. Seattle battling, needs a win for that playoff aspiration to materialize. The Bears trying to make it tough on Walter Payton Day, hoping yet to have the full home field advantage in the playoffs with a victory. Tom Zach starting deep in his own end. Drills it complete for a first down at the 21-yard line.
National Football League rules require that we present away games starting with the opening kickoff. So to stations in the team's home area, and in this case, Indianapolis, will be leaving this game in a few minutes for a telecast involving the Colts at San Diego. However, we'll continue here on NBC to bring you reports on this game to keep you up to date. Now that play called back, and the penalty takes it to the 5.
The real penalty here, Dick, is facing that wind. You've seen what it does to the punting game. It makes it difficult for long passes and really helps the defense because they can play a much shorter field.
Difference of the game in the moment. At the moment, 2 field goals that follow 2 Mike Tomczak fumbles. He'll throw it from his own end zone. There'll be a penalty on Boso, against Boso. The tight end was knocked down at the 40-yard line, didn't have a chance. Terry Taylor appeared to trip him up.
I don't think there was a chance of catching that football, and that's the kind of mistake that kills you defensively. Terry Taylor did not know where the football was. He'll just knock that backup tight end right off his feet. I don't think there was a chance that he'd catch that football, Dick.
7 yards downfield is where it landed.
Big conference going on the sideline.
If they rule as you saw it, Merlin, then it is just an incomplete pass. Well, Chuck Knox is always willing to offer some assistance.
Defensive pass interference. First down.
All right. Well, they're saying that there was a chance to catch the football. Chance to look at it from the same angle again, but there's no question about the penalty. He did knock him off his feet. Just a question of whether he was going to be able to get to that football. The officials said yes. It's going to be 1st and 10. And Seattle moving, or Chicago moving with the winds in their face, and they're outside almost to the 40-yard line.
Caught from behind as 79 Jacob Green makes the tackle. Seahawks.
Came in all the way behind Tomczak, and Tomczak with that ball dangling a little bit dangerously even on that play. Boy, he's got to learn to put that pumpkin away.
The National Broadcasting Company presents the National Football League. Today, from Jack Murphy Stadium, it's the Indianapolis...
A good deal during this game. Schultz behind Bozo as Bozo comes across the field. Had no chance there, but that ball just bouncing right through the hands. And again, you've got to feel that there was a lot of volume on that pass as Tomczak was running to his left and really fired that football. Tough to handle on a cold day.
7 minutes, 4 seconds remain. A big 3rd and 11 for Chicago.
Seattle, a free play, wide open, and Gentry. They'll take the play all the way to the 35. Now, a question of whether Seattle was drawn offside. Freddie Young, no question he was over the line when the ball was snapped. But did someone move? The Bears are saying no.
Defense, number 50. Offside, decline. First down.
The Bears 35 yards from the lead.
There's Freddie, number 50. There's no question of who's offside there. The Bears locked in. And Tomczak, knowing he had the easy 5, had the free shot downfield, takes full advantage of it. And the Bears, in spite of the wind, moving down the field.
Boy, that Dennis Gentry is one of the unheralded stars of the Bears. There's a guy that was drafted out of Baylor as an outstanding running back. Has become a dangerous wide receiver. 3 catches for him and 58 yards today. And despite the injury to Neil Anderson, the leading rusher and leading receiver for the Bears this year,
Suey, Thomas, Sanders, Payton have picked up the load. 8 yards for Suey, seldom used on offense this year. Houston now by 8. That would scramble things. And Houston right back in the picture. The only final, the Patriots beating Buffalo, so Buffalo 7-7, New England 7-7, Indianapolis playing at San Diego 7-6, and Miami later against Washington 7-6. I think we'll have a winning team with a winning record in the East.
Might be strange this year.
Second and short. Down the middle to the 1. Ron Morris. A flag is down.
It would look like there might have been a holding call on Paul Blair. Jeff Bryant up to celebrate, but let's see what they do. And boy, that would be a death blow as Chicago has marched repeatedly against this Seattle defense today. It's not been the fault of this offensive unit of Chicago. They have moved the ball for big yardage.
Offense, number 68, holding. 10
They're
yards.
replacing the talented Jim Covert at left tackle. And for those of you not with us at the start of the game, the Bears lost a field goal. They made a 39-yard field goal, and that was erased because of a penalty.
You can't see number 68. He's just at the top of your screen. There it was, just a takedown as he grabbed the inside arm. The end of the play, but it's all for naught. Easier to see from this angle. Bottom of your screen. Boy, he's got the head and the shoulder and the arm all in one grasp.
So instead of 2nd and 2 or 1st and goal at the 1, it's 2nd and 12. Now, it has to be so tough because the offensive linemen get away with so much in this era. You wonder when you do finally throw the flag.
They certainly do. They're putting some time back on the clock, Dick. Boy, this has been a game of real ups and downs for both teams. We mentioned that Seattle has had trouble controlling the run throughout the year. The Bears have really kept themselves going with the running game, and by forcing Seattle to honor that run, have opened up room for Tom Zach on the passing game.
14.
It's 6:03 right now. They're going to put 11 seconds back on the clock. A delay for that. We've had that problem 3 times today.
Well, you would think that certainly Chicago wants as much time as possible. They're behind in this ball game, but they're only behind by 6 points. A touchdown puts them ahead.
Tom Zach has thrown for 305 yards, 20 for 30. He's had a big day throwing the ball. A couple of fumbles have been costly. 2nd and 12, and he can't get rid of it. Flag down again as the sack recorded by Jeff Bryant, number 77.
There's a penalty somewhere in the line. Hard to tell whether it's a first. Well,
Offense, number 63.
This
Tripping,
time,
decline.
Hilgenberg, Jay Hilgenberg, the center.
Hilgenberg playing with a bad elbow, has a hard time moving that right arm at all. You see him, I think if that right arm were healthy, you'd see him using the arm there. But because that arm is hurting, he used his leg and got caught tripping. I'll tell you, it's tough to play when the body is beat up. He's not only got a bad arm, but he's also got a left shoulder that he can't use very well.
Number 49, 3rd and 24. Unloading it, and open is goal. Nope, he's picked off. Eugene Robinson to the 30. Robinson to the 45-yard line as he timed his move. It appeared that Galt, streaking down the sidelines, had the defense beaten, but Robinson laying back. He waited for the ball to float his direction, then made his move, and the easy interception.
Throwing into the wind, and the wind just simply held that ball up. I think without the breeze, Galt is free enough. That ball might be open. But watch him as that ball is just hanging and hanging and hanging and hanging. Eugene Robinson picks it up and carries it back upfield.
A bright scholar out of Colgate, Eugene Robinson, with his 2nd interception of the year. Seahawks own the ball at their own 45. 27-21 the score. Kurt Warner.
Mike Tomczak has been criticized for not looking off the defense. But watch him here on this last interception. He'll look to his right, even fake to his right there, and then come back to Galt deep. He set the play up beautifully, but the wind held the football up long enough for number 41, Eugene Robinson, to recover and make the interception. And Tomczak has to feel very sad about that. He did everything they asked him to do, and it ended up going back the other way. What a tough 2 weeks he's had.
2nd and 9. Draw to Warner. Oh, those are Walter Payton moves to the 41-yard line.
Warner's first good run of the day, Dick. He has really been bottled up all day long. A credit to the run defense of the Bears. But in this situation, I'll tell you, you can't hold the great backs down. I mean, you can stifle them, but you can't keep them from breaking away all day long.
50 yards for Warner, and there's the total yards.
Look at the total yards. And there's no question who has dominated this game in terms of yardage, but I got to tell you, statistics don't mean anything in that final score. The Seahawks have gotten the turnovers, and they have gotten the big plays to put themselves on the board.
5 turnovers to none for Seattle. Donnell Williams, look out. Fumble! Who's out of it? The 29. Seattle recovers. Boy, sometimes it's just the way that ball wants to treat you. Ask Dan Reeves out in Denver.
I got to tell you, that ball is not round, and it can bounce some funny directions. You watch it at the end of this play. A wonderful run by John L. Williams. Great power as he pulls again out of the tackle of Singletary to get an extra 8 yards. Ran into his own man. That's Butler, the wide receiver. Ball on the ground, but he's on it quickly. And there are the turnovers on the day. Wow.
That is the biggest and most important statistic.
Hard to overcome 5 turnovers on the day. 6 turnovers the first half against the Bears last week. That's what really got them in trouble against San Francisco.
But the Bears trail by only 6. For Seattle looking for at least a field goal to stretch that out to 9. Warner taken off his feet at the 21-yard line. What a hit by Wilbur Marshall.
Good block by Mike Wilson, number 75, the big tackle out in front. Warner is still on the ground. He may be unconscious. He really got socked.
Teammate Steve Largent, that could be critical to Seattle's hopes. You don't lose a man like Warner without penalizing.
He's trying to get his air. Watch the hit. And Warner trying to tiptoe that sideline, loses his balance, and boy, that's head to head.
Helmet right into the chin of Warner.
You'll get a chance to see it here. Watch Warner's helmet come flashing back at you as he just catches the shot from Wilbur Marshall right there. Woof. Boy, I'll tell you, there's some whiplash in that. Warner is up and walking, but I got to believe that there are a few stars circulating in his head right now.
Check of our 10-minute ticker. Houston still by 8. Not a final yet. Minnesota has beaten Detroit, so the Vikings go 8-6. Philadelphia apparently a winner. New England keeps its hopes alive with a 13-7 win, and New Orleans' lead is 10.
And you have to wonder what this game might have been like had this man had a helmet on today instead of dark glasses.
And they're talking now they may try to get him healthy for the playoffs, not play him next week either.
He makes a big difference in the confidence level of this entire team. There's something special about him.
Eric Lane replaces the injured Warner, and John L. Williams has the first down and more inside the 15 of the Bears. Clock running to 3:20. Now Seattle well in field goal range. The NFC playoff picture, those the 4 outstanding teams, dominant teams this year, with Minnesota moving into the number 5 spot and a wild card team at 8-6. The AFC much more complicated. That's the parity side of football.
That's an understatement, I think, Dick. Of course, Seattle, a very important part of that picture, and they're wanting to clear up part of it with a victory here today.
Warner back in the game, and he gets the call.
Good move. Good 2 moves. Oof.
Gain of 3 or 4 before Dan Hampton can make the tackle, and the clock continues to run. And of course, Seattle here would like nothing more than chew up as much as they can, at least get a field goal. There's the AFC best records. Denver with the best mark, and a win next week would assure them full home field advantage. Seattle, Cleveland, Pittsburgh a loser today, so that is losing would be 8 and 6. We'll play Cleveland next week, and San Diego still in the picture as well. Of those 4 teams at 7 and 6, they're all part of it. Houston will be one of those, and if they win, 8 and 6 for the Oilers.
Of course, Seattle watching that game yesterday between Denver and Kansas City and realizing that Denver was a fingertip away from a loss. A ball tipped out of a receiver's hands in the end zone could have given a victory to Kansas City, and then Kansas City comes back and misses a short field goal to go for the tie. So Kenny Easley, one of those being chatted with on the sideline by Tom Catlin, defensive coordinator.
This game is the property of the National Football League, the Seattle Seahawks and Chicago Bears, all rights reserved. The Bears using one of the timeouts because Seattle was going to let it run down to the 2-minute warning. There's 2 minutes, 22 seconds left. Some of the Bear fans heading for home. Their Chicago team down by 6.
Got to be a game if you're a Bear player, a Bear coach, a Bear fan, that you say, if only we had, and there aren't that many turns you would have made differently in this game. The ball bouncing in a certain way gives Bosworth a chance to steal it, get downfield. The fumbles by Tomczak. The end result, of course, points that were picked up alertly so by the Seattle team. And boy, I tell you, they continue to amaze you in the way they take advantage of the opportunities.
2nd and 7. Warner on a little delay. He's close to a first down. May have it at the 5-yard line.
Brought down by Wilson and Richardson.
Warner getting big chunks of yardage for the first time all day.
Otis Wilson slow and getting to his feet.
We mentioned that he had just come back from a knee injury, injured his shoulder in last week's ball game against San Francisco. Was not sure how long he would be able to go today. You see him lifting that left arm. That's the one that is hurt.
Seattle next week will play at Kansas City, so the Chiefs, who almost upset Denver yesterday, will play a part of Seattle's playoff hopes, and the Raiders will host Chicago next week. Now, here are the games next week. As you know, Pittsburgh and Cleveland will play on Saturday, an early game, noon Eastern time. Buffalo at Philadelphia. The Jets and the Giants. Cincinnati at Houston. Seattle, Kansas City, and the late game, San Diego at Denver. Obviously an important game in the AFC West. Has there ever been a season where so many games were significant so late in the year? And we have 2 of them as the second half of our doubleheader. We'll be a little tardy in getting to those games. But you'll be seeing either Cleveland and the Raiders in Los Angeles. We should be getting some scores on those on our next ticker. And Indianapolis will be at San Diego. The Colts have to be buoyed by the news that the Bills have lost today. And here for the Bears, they're really between the rock and a hard place, trailing by 6, and 1st and goal, Seattle inside the 5.
They have to be thinking turnover here. They can't afford to give up any points. They got to try and strip the football.
They've used 2 of their timeouts as well. Warner, touchdown. Curtis Warner.
Drive that nail into the coffin with just 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. They go way out in front here.
Well, with the loss by the Bears, perhaps it was appropriate that the ceremony took place today for Walter Payton. Everyone said, well, why not wait to the playoffs? We can salute him then. Well, who knows? It's conceivable now that the Bears may not have the home field advantage, depending on, of course, so many other games as well. But the Bears apparently will drop to 10 and 4.
You have to believe that coming into this game, much easier for Knox to motivate his team with so much at stake than Ditka. Yet Ditka's Bears have played well today, Dick.
Kurt Warner, quiet in the first half, suddenly comes up with a pretty good day at that. 75 yards rushing for Warner, and he matches Payton's 2 touchdowns.
And most all of it here in the fourth quarter at a time when they needed to take control. They have not been able to control the line of scrimmage all day long. Passing game has been effective. The turnovers have helped them. But finally, here in the fourth quarter, they get the running game cranked up, and they get in for go-ahead points and really give them a nice cushion.
Stuck in a final, Houston has defeated Pittsburgh 24-16. So the Oilers and Pittsburgh both at 8 and 6.
The one thing this Seattle team has going for them at this moment as they head toward the playoffs, and they need to win next week to assure themselves of that opportunity, is that they are relatively healthy. They're a pretty healthy football team. Not true of the Chicago Bears. The Bears really hurt by injuries along the offensive and defensive front, as well as to McMahon and other key people.
Another unhappy coach has to be Cincinnati Sam Weish. At home, his Bengals led New Orleans 24-3 late in the first half and lost 41-24. 38 unanswered points by the New Orleans Saints at Cincinnati.
Has that been the hardest team in the league to understand this year?
They found a way to lose too often.
They sure have. They sure have. And the odds on Sam White being there next year, I think, would not being there next year would increase.
Now for the Bears, with only one timeout left, they're really looking for a miracle now. Johnson's kick will go in the end zone for the touchback. The 8-play drive just finished for the touchdown by Seattle. All 8 plays on the ground, with Warner carrying 6 of the 8 and getting the 5-yard touchdown. So the report card on the Bears today, Tom Zach can't be displeased with those numbers, 305 yards, but he did have 2 fumbles that led to 2 field goals. Payton, his best day of the season, 79 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and McKinnon had more catches than any Bear with 4.
Of course, there's an interception there that really closed off a drive that would have allowed them to climb back into this game as well.
One of the 5 turnovers. Seattle didn't cough it up once. Underneath, Willie Gault for 5 yards. And the 2-minute timeout comes with 1 minute 58 seconds remaining, and Seattle in control.
1985. Hard luck Tampa Bay fights back to take a fourth quarter 27-24 lead over the Rams on a perfect Steve DeBerg strike. Moments later, DeBerg throws another strike right down the middle, but to Ram cornerback Leroy Irvin, who weaves his way into the end zone. The Rams sink the Bucs 31-27 as Tampa fans turn thumbs down on
the Seahawks report card. Craig, no interceptions. Right place to cover 4 of his own fumbles. Warner, 75 yards. Williams, 8 catches, 117 yards, plus 30 more yards rushing. And Bosworth, a sack, 2 fumbles recovered, 5 tackles. Who gets the most valuable player then?
I'd give it to the big man, John L. Williams, who's had such a good day catching the football, ran it effectively, and has thrown some devastating blocks. But we had pulled out of a lot of tackles today.
Well, the way I'm hearing it now, it was very close. It was a tie, but Williams did win better haircut. On the basis of a better haircut, John L. Williams, Most Valuable Player Award, sponsored by Budweiser. Today's MVP, Mr. Williams from the Seattle Seahawks. Budweiser makes a contribution to the United Way on behalf of all MVP selected in games around the NFL. (34-21). Seattle. Little inside draw to Gentry to the 34-yard line of first down. The Bears trying to hustle up to the line of scrimmage. And the clock is their enemy. Tom Zach. Deep down the middle to McKinnon, incomplete. And again, the win a factor on that kind of throw as it floated behind McKinnon. Well, before we go to the second half of our doubleheader, here are the other scores. Houston a winner, right back in the thick of things. Minnesota 8-6 now with a win at Detroit. Philadelphia still not over yet, 38-27 against the Jets. New England, they're still there, 13-7 at Buffalo, and New Orleans 38 straight points. Now the late games that you're going to be seeing, Cleveland leads early against the Raiders, and Indianapolis and San Diego are tied. Atlanta no score at San Francisco and Tampa Bay. Early 7-0 against St. Louis. A minute 35. Tomczak over the head of Gauld and almost intercepted by the Seahawks Robinson. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. Coordinating producer of NFL football and the director of today's game, Ted Nathanson. Telecast today from Chicago was produced by Larry Cirillo. Technical director Neil Flagg. The associate producer Ross Schneiderman. Associate director Doug Grabert. And to all the men and women here in Chicago for NBC Sports, on behalf of them and Merlin Olsen, we certainly want to wish you and yours the happiest of holidays. We look forward to visiting with you on the new year. Fumble. Tony Woods creates the fumble, and Keith Van Horn falls on it for Chicago back at the 25-yard line. That'll bring up fourth down.
Again, that ball bouncing loose. We won't have to credit Tomczak with that one. That one simply knocked out of his hand.
Going to call it an incomplete.
Call it an incomplete pass? Well,
generous.
Okay. That looked like a fumble to me.
Yeah, thanks to our capable statistician, Joe Costanza, John Engler, Gil Haggard, Andrew Rohn, Mark Grossman, Phil Olson for their assistance in the booth. Rolling to buy time. Right in the arms of Melvin Jenkins, but he couldn't pull in the interception. Well, they started with cheers for Payton, and this day, rather surprisingly nice day along Lake Michigan, ends in boos for Tomczak. That's how it started. President McCaskey for Walter Payton retiring the number 34. Payton did not know that that decision had been made, with his family and friends celebrating his day as Chicago honors one of their great athletes, Payton, and he returns the favor.
He threw two footballs into the stands today as his way of saying, I'd like to share these touchdowns with you. He goes out with the same kind of dignity and class, even in a losing effort, as he showed us through all his performance.
And his focus, as will be the case for the Bears, will be on the playoffs. It's a team crippled with injuries to key players. By winning the Central Division, they will get the week off for the wild card. Mike Ditka hopes that wounds will be healed and that he'll be healthy enough to be a major factor in the playoffs.
Well, that week would certainly help, but I'm afraid it's not going to bring everybody back to health. And I'll tell you, this is still a team to be reckoned with. They play tough defense with McMahon back in. They gain new dimension offensively, and of course he will return either next week or in time for the playoffs.
But they're a lot tougher in a bad weather game when they're playing here in Chicago.
I'd love to have it here.
The weather today really was an ally for Seattle. The sunshine for the Seahawks.
Please drive carefully.
Walter Payton, our last chance to say thank you to you for the thrills you provided us. As the final seconds tick away here in Chicago, sad but true, you still got to win the game. Standing ovation. Great cheers for Payton early. Not many folks left to say. Third quarter.